unmute microphones. One, take it away.
All right. Call this, I never know if I should do that before or after, but anyways, we'll call this regular board meeting to order. Today is regular Oscoda Township board meeting. Today is December 12th at 7:04. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll start with roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wishbarth?
Present.
Ms. Richards?
Here. All right. I believe we have a couple agenda additions, or at least one, I think. But Tammy?
Yes, I have, I would like to remove the resolution for
Okay.
and I would like to add under other number 12, PKL Homes contract amendment.
Okay, so removing resolution 2022-42 under resolutions and ordinances and adding under other PKL Homes, I can't even read my own writing, contract amendment. Okay,
Chairman,
yes,
I also had under finance in the
That's,
consent agenda.
we would do that under consent agenda.
Oh,
Oh, no,
No,
we
we
wouldn't, we
have to
do
add
it
it.
now, sorry.
that's okay. It's listed DWRF checking report and CW SRF checking report, but I did hand out two more that needed to be added to that list to be approved.
Okay. And then I believe, Josh, you have something for check run for the contractors that we approved?
Yes, I need to add an additional check run that was run on 12/6 under E for approval, and that was the contractor check run, just for those checks that were approved at special meeting.
Okay, so that would be check run for contractors dated 12/6.
Yes.
Okay. With that, do we have a motion to approve the agenda additions and changes?
So moved.
Support for Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings to approve those agenda changes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to, we have a public hearing this evening that was advertised. It is for the Oscoda Township fiscal year 2023 budget presentation. We do need a motion to go into that public hearing. Is there a motion to go in?
I would make a motion to open the public hearing for the 2023 budget presentation.
Support Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer to open the budget presentation public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. We are now in the public hearing section of the agenda. And again, that is to specifically discuss the 2023 budget. If anybody is here to discuss that, this would be the time to make public comment. I would note, I'll first see if you want to add anything before we do that, but it was posted online on the township's website, and it was available in the clerk's office.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I was just looking at page 38, where it says that my hourly rate as a trustee is $168 an hour, and I'd like to have that amended, because that is not true.
Okay, well, let's get there in a minute.
Yep.
All right, so I just wanted to mention those two things. And with that, Tammy, do you want to add anything?
No, I have nothing.
Okay, all right, so I guess first, does the board have any comment on the, and then I'll open it up to the public?
No.
Besides Jeremy's?
Page 38. I gotta
Page
check that out.
38, okay. All right. Okay, so with that, is anybody here to make comment on the public? Psh, that's not what I meant. Is anybody here to make comment on the budget? Okay. Kathy, you want to come down first?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Kathy Woosterbar. I would like to bring up, which I have done in the past with the township, that, and I actually don't know what the plans are for this year, but generally you guys get your medical plans for the township presented to you, I think, maybe from the insurance carrier that you have, or your broker, or whatever. So I'm wondering what the insurance plan is for this year, and what you chose. In the past, what I've seen, and again, I don't know because I haven't asked for the this year's policies, or what options that you chose. I'm wondering what plan you chose, but in the past, the township employees had a 100% plan that I believe had a very low deductible, so it was the Cadillac version of medical plans, and I would ask that the board or superintendent or whoever's in charge of looking at those things consider something that might be more affordable for the township, because as you know, medical plans can cost a lot. And if you look at the budget under, for example, the clerk's hospitalization, I think it's under Department 215. I think maybe budgeted for next year is $61,000. And then, and I'm just using these as an example because I looked at them very quickly. And then if you look at the treasurers, it's, well, those are pretty big numbers. I think that the board needs to look at in terms of choosing a plan here. So just wondering if you guys have looked, consider just making sure that we're being as physically responsible for choosing plans. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Okay, anybody else for the budget? Okay, Kelly?
Last meeting of the year.
Yes.
Exciting. I just have two. One was just a confirmation and the other is a question. Meeting about building into an extra code compliance police officer. And when I reviewed the budget in the packet, it does have a dramatic increase for police officers from 22 to 23, but then the line underneath in the subsection for a code compliance officer, zero budget 23. And are we in fact adding one specifically for code compliance? Can anyone confirm that? That was just a question I had to confirm.
Yep, that would be a,
Yes, it has been added in as an additional police officer and not put up with the
So it's just in that lump sum that was like 400 and something thousand?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And then the other thing, which I'm sorry, I've been down with bronchitis, so I couldn't attend your other budget sessions. But we had talked, and Trustee Wursterbarth had brought up that we needed to put a more finite focus on the issues with our water loss. So is there any like special, did you guys put in any extra funds for special exploration and development to try and reduce that water loss? I did look in the February 2022 packet, and it did have in there about what the water loss was from 21. But I couldn't find anything else. And based on if that 40% number was right, that could annually be about 300,000. So I don't know what we would need for something like that, but was that discussed at that second budget meeting at all? Do you guys feel it's necessary, or is there somewhere else that money could be pulled? That was my only comment with regards to the budget, that I didn't see any line item, but it could be rolled up. I don't know. I just wasn't in the discussion in your meeting.
okay. I actually was not able to attend the second budget work session, so I don't know if we discussed that or not, but I know we've been in conversation with F&B, and they had a couple suggestions, did they not, in regard to?
Yes, we are currently working on that, and also Mr. Freeman has volunteered to, well, not volunteered, but he will be also, himself to help figure out what's going on.
So I
Tammy,
guess.
I don't think your
yeah.
microphone's on.
It's on, I think they're trying to fix it.
Oh.
Yeah, they've been down there kneeling in front of her.
Oh. Those were just
Yeah.
the two things.
Yep.
I
Yep.
didn't know about the first one or about the second one, and I assumed the first one was rolled in, so.
Good
Thank you for
questions.
putting all the time into the budget. It really, there's a lot of detail in there, and it's a lot of work, so appreciate everyone's efforts.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, anybody else in the middle section for the budget component? Okay, far right-hand side, anybody for budget comments? Okay, hearing
I got
none?
a couple now.
Okay, all right, so then I'll open up to the board if we have any comments for the budget.
I missed the first work session on the budget, and I don't know if, at one point, we raised the seasonal rate for employees out at all employees, seasonal employees to $16 an hour. Was that ever discussed at that first budget meeting? Does anybody know? And my thought is are we going to reduce that or give Old Orchard Park a sliding scale to up to $16? Because I know that the thought behind moving them up is because other places were offering more money. But now that I see McDonald's is, instead of $15 an hour, they're hiring people back at $12.50. So I was just curious if that was ever discussed at the first meeting that I missed. And do we plan on doing something like that or relooking at that or giving Al the latitude to,
Discuss discretion up to $16 an hour, for people with different skill set. So that's what we discussed it there.
so does that need to be acted on here for the budget, or is that just an assumed thing because we discussed it?
We assumed that we would fix that while there were no seasonal employees, because we can't take it back from them.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll look into it for the,
By January, we should be able to address that.
Okay.
we'll look into it for the 2023 hiring process. Okay, all right.
And Tammy, to piggyback kind of on what Kelly was talking about with the code enforcement, because I know I asked that same question, it wasn't in that line item, but correct me if I'm wrong, but when we talked about it, like all the police officers are going to be basically out there when they're out there doing their rounds, look for blight or code enforcement
Yes,
things?
everyone will be involved.
Okay. So that's why it's not just one line item?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I guess before we keep going, did they figure out what's going on with your mic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can talk louder, I guess.
All right, I was going to say, I mean, I can hear you, but I'm guessing that some of the other people can't, so maybe, yeah. So I guess don't maybe worry so much about stretching to the microphone if it's not working, because that does look super awkward. Although JD to the rescue is coming with some kind of a backup here, I think. Possibly. Okay, so any other board members while we're waiting on the microphone? Any other board members for
Just
budget?
one comment on her, about the water loss. I don't think, to my recollection, I don't believe we budgeted any extra money for detecting water loss. But I do know that one of the things we're finding, and we've had several occasions of this happening, is where there's, like, a particular instance here just recently where FB found a 3/8 inch hole in the water line that goes from the road to the people's house. They didn't report that for about 3 weeks. They didn't know there was water in the yard. They didn't know what it was. Finally called the water department. They went out and found this hole. That resulted in the loss over 3 weeks, and according to what I read from FNV, they believe it was leaking longer than that. But for a 3-week period, that would amount to a 575,000 gallon water loss.
Wow.
And that's one of the reasons that happens is because in the old system, the meters were in the house. So if there's a loss between the road and the house, nobody knows about it until you see the water coming up. And with our sandy soil, it may take a long time for that to rise to the surface.
Right.
What we're trying to do with these new service lines is we put in meter pits at the road, so that the meters are at the road. So if there's a leak between that meter and the house, they would see a larger water bill. That would incentivize the residents to notify the water department right away that there's a problem before we have these huge hundreds of thousands of gallons of water's lost. The problem is we can't get meter pits. we can't get enough of them to do the projects we're doing. My thought would be going forward, that every year we take a project and do some of the old meter pits and replace where there's meter pits in the house and put in the meter pits at the road. But until we can get meter pits in here, I guess we'll have to put that on hold. But I think for future reference, that would be a solution to some, in fact, a fairly large amount of the water loss that we're experiencing. These, just a 3/8 inch hole in a 3-week period generated almost 600,000 gallons of water lost. So, and I know we've had several of those here just recently that have been detected. So that's my comment on the water loss.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Yep. Just that, not on the budget, but just along those lines. Just at a recent board meeting, we did have F&V in here, and we did challenge F&V as our operator to come back to the township with a plan through Tammy. So I know that's being worked on, so we could look at how to attack these in the future.
Correct. Yep. And it's, I mean, thank you for continuing to bring it up, Kelly, because it's an important subject, so appreciate that. All right, anybody else on the board level then, or on the board table, I should say, want to make a comment? If not, all right, I make a motion that we close the public hearing. Support. Okay, there's a motion by Richards, support by McGuire to close the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, we are now in the regular board meeting again. We are at the part of public comment. This is the first public comment section. This is reserved for an item that is specifically on the agenda. You must fill out a comment card in order to speak. We do have a second public comment section at the end of the meeting where you can speak on any topic, including an agenda item. So both times you are limited to 4 minutes. So with that, do we have any comment cards?
Yes, we have 6.
6? Are there 6 people in the room?
Yes.
Just kidding. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the first one is going to be Kathy Woosterbarth.
Okay.
And our formal clock is not working, so,
Hold, yeah, just 1 second before you start. So our clock isn't working on?
no, they said it's not working.
I'll be
so
short, I promise.
I got a
Okay.
stopwatch now.
Well, we'll just so that we're consistent with everybody,
Sure.
we'll
Yeah.
she'll do the, so our clock that shows up above isn't working, so Jamie's gonna keep it on her phone, okay?
Yep,
Okay.
So, okay.
whenever you're ready.
All right. The engineering report, it looks like that is done quarterly, from what I can tell. So that's on the agenda for tonight. And I am hoping that the portion that addresses PFAS, where it is under coordinating with F&B operations, coordination on several issues, PFAS, wastewater treatment system, CIPs, existing service lines, et cetera. I'm hoping that that will be an extended conversation or report to the board in terms of what's happening with all of that. So I think it was pretty brief during the last report in September. So that's
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay, up next is Kelly Brown.
Okay. Subject?
Other.
Okay.
Do we have any lights on this side?
Do we have any what?
Some lights so we can read stuff?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, come up here and use my light, because this is
Yeah.
blinding me right
Yeah,
here.
is there
No,
any way to?
I'm gonna leave you guys right where you're at. Because I have some handwritten notes, but anyways, the 2 items, I know you probably, if they're in other, I think that typically means that you are not going to be discussing them. But one thing I wanted to just mention on them, so when they do come up on your agenda, there's also some additional information from the public. On the auto dialer discussion, it's a placeholder. Jeremy, you gave us an update that that was kind of put on the back burner because you're waiting on the county. And prior to that, you, I think Tammy had done some research about several different services. And I think it tapped out at around $7,000 to potentially have us purchase our own system. So I don't know if there's ever been a follow-up with the county, if they're going to charge us, and that evaluation has been compared to what it would cost for us just to get our own system. Because the last water loss that happened, where this issue became something I brought up, as well as another member of the community, Clayton Jolly, had come in 3 times and brought it up, that happened in February. So I just think kicking the can down the road into 2023 and hitting that 1-year anniversary, you know, we've got in the other package about the subcommittee purchase request for art, and that taps out at about the same amount of money that this program cost. I'm wondering if maybe we could just switch that out and put an emergency notification system into place to start the new year and bring that art budget over to 2023. We're not going to put wood benches out in the winter anyways. I mean, there's no point. They're beautiful carved benches. You'll ruin them with the winter weather. So those were the 2 things. And then the last thing was item number 11 that Trustee Sutton had put in about the social media use request. I had talked at the November 14th meeting about the public participation plan and how Facebook and Zoom and all these technologies are listed in there. But one thing I didn't mention to you guys specifically, I brought up about how the survey that was done in September was out there, and if you guys could go look at it. Well, I was one of the primary members that did it, put the survey out for the community on the Downtown Redevelopment Committee, or Subcommittee. So an interesting percentage on one of the questions it asked, and the response was, and this is in direct support to what Josh is going after this evening, 33.5% of the respondents said that if Oscoda had social media, they would go there to get their information. So I just thought that was a really supportive from the community type way of saying that we need to expand the resources to get words out about water issues with boil water alerts, emergency notifications, maybe just meetings in general. So those were just the 3 items on the other section that I wanted to share with you tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. We actually do discuss other, it's informational that we don't always discuss, just so you know.
Sure.
Okay, all right, next person.
Okay, Greg Wilkinson regarding the Arts Council Subcommittee. Oh, yeah. Okay. Art Council, okay.
Yep, it's an agenda item.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Again, my name's Greg Wilkinson. I'm a resident of Oscoda Township. I have been for the past 14 years. I'm also on the board of directors for the Oscoda Chamber of Commerce, and I am the event coordinator and organizer of the chainsaw carving competition at the Paul Bunyan Festival. I have seen the estimate for the purchase of several items from a place called Cynthia's in Omer, and my position is that I think we'd be much better served if we supported those who supported us, being the chainsaw carvers that have been coming for all these years to the Paul Bunyan Festival. You know, I've organized this for five out of the last 7 years. 2 years being the COVID year, we didn't have a festival, and then in 2021 I had some personal things and I wasn't able to be here. These chainsaw carvers have been loyal to this community, and I also was involved in negotiating the price for the bench that the Chamber of Commerce purchased that was just recently raffled off, and I did have a hand in doing some work on that bench prior to that. There's also, to my knowledge, a 20 to 30% increase in this fee of $6,900. It's going to go directly to the person that owns that Cynthia's. You know, I negotiated a price with no middleman. You know, and the 2 benches that I did negotiate for, they're $700 less than the $3,900 here for those 2 benches. That's already a 10% decrease. or less expenditure that the township would have to put out. So I think it's in our best interest if we can somehow contact these carvers that have participated. And I know that they have done commissions in the community in the past. I've been part of referring them to clients in town. So that's my position, that I feel it would be much better served, especially in the area of public art, and that we do need some of these new things to put around the community. But I think it's very important for us to support those who support us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, Tammy?
Okay, so Devin Tazier, and it'll be the social media use request.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
See on the placeholder on the agenda that you are going to be looking at a possible social media. Since this town has embraced social media so strongly, I think it's a good idea. I really do. I think the township needs a way to communicate information that is happening within those walls of that township office. And you guys could use that to talk to your constituents. Now, I'm not saying put comments on it. Doesn't need to have comments on it. But I think it's a way that you can let people know when the meetings are. Any huge events that the township is sponsoring that's happening in the area. We already have We Are Oscoda. We have several other Oscoda community that are putting out the smaller events, but just to let people know about Oscoda, the history of Oscoda, what we stand for, amenities that we have. We use it for promotion, and it is huge. As a realtor, yes, promotional on Facebook is huge. Would be a good thing for our community to have. I realize that Meta has taken it over and there's a clause somewhere hidden deep down inside, but Sheboygan's using it, Traverse City's using it, Rochester's using it, Clarkston's using it, Gaylord, Grayling. These are some pretty big communities, and they're all benefiting their community by having informational Facebook page. Not saying, again, let me reiterate, no comments need to be on this page, just strictly informational, so your people can know what's going on in the community and about our town. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy?
Okay, Galen Brandewell, Art Subcommittee purchase request.
Good evening. My name is Galen Brainowell. I'm a Township of Oscoda resident and also the interim director of the Oscoda Sable Chamber of Commerce. And I am addressing the Art Subcommittee's purchase request that is in the board packet, and also the invoice for $6,900 to purchase 2 chainsaw carved benches and a chainsaw carved eagle to display in Oscoda. The Art Committee had an opportunity to purchase 2 chainsaw carved benches at our very own Paul Bunyan Festival in September. They were carved at the festival. They could have purchased both benches that are now priced at $3,900 through this Omer vendor for much less, and all 3 items could have been purchased for probably $2,000 less than what's proposed in this invoice that you have tonight. They still have that opportunity to get those same items from the chainsaw carvers that were at Paul Bunyan. The Omer vendor did not carve the items. They are merely a reseller for commission. I was present the entire time at the Paul Bunyan Festival. Many of the art committee people were not there. However, 2 of the art committee people were there. They were present at the event. They did look at some of the items and they were interested in purchasing. They had money in the budget, but they said they did not have any authorization to purchase any of these items. However, they could have been reserved, all these items could have been reserved for purchase by the committee because the carvers actually did that for the chamber. We did not have the money to purchase the bench, but they were willing to let us have it and then pending approval, we could pay them. They also offered us a discount. In addition, all the items that were carved at the festival and auctioned at the festival, which I was part of, half of the proceeds go to the carvers. The other half goes back to the Chamber of Commerce to help us fund the Paul Bunyan Festival for this year and into next year. It is still possible now, in December, to negotiate identical items from our own chainsaw carvers if the money is budgeted and must be spent before the end of the year. The chamber is the fiduciary for the art committee. We receive funds and write checks, and we are able to negotiate and write checks to purchase and make down payments for any of those items that they want in Oscoda. I am requesting that this board does not approve spending $6,900 to the Omer vendor. I like the idea of approving the money to be spent to buy chainsaw carved items, which is part of our history, but to do it with the chainsaw carvers who come every year and support us at the Paul Bunyan Festival. The chamber is willing to help with the negotiation and the funding as far as writing the checks and so forth. We have an opportunity for a win-win situation here for positive press in the newspaper and the radio to show that the township purchased items that support the art committee, but also has a positive impact in the media, the newspaper, the radio stations, and with the residents. Purchasing from a vendor in Omer has the potential for generating some negative press and negative opinions about the township with our residents and the committee and the carvers who will be coming to 2023 Paul Bunyan Festival.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you do it the opposite way, set the timer and then just go down?
What difference does it make?
Because then it would beep.
No, it's not gonna beep, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, a little discussion on how to do the timer. Yeah, if you do it. I am not being bossy. Jeez, if you did timer and set it for 4 minutes. Well, I know, but then it would just beep and I wouldn't have to go like that. Okay, sorry. If you just do time, if you do 4 minutes.
I'll try to see what I can do.
Okay, sorry, do we have any more comments? Thank you, sorry, thank you very much, those are all good points. Do you have any more comment cards?
Yes, I have one more. Robert Tazier, social media use request.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Robert Tazier, Oscoda Township. You probably all know that I'm not a real big favor of social media since I'm attacked on it daily, but I am in favor of a social media page for the Township of Oscoda. I believe it falls in line with the master plan. I believe it falls in line with the communication plan. I think it's a very good thing. I would like to also, as my wife said, we don't have to have comments on there, but for informational, I don't think it could be beat, really. I mean, it's the best bang for your buck. Positive influence on social media, I'm all in favor of that. Putting out, people could submit things into the township and ask about, and they could answer it right there on the social media page. And it's not a dialogue that would be a bad thing to do. I think having comments on social media is a bad thing, but I think using it for the right purposes would be a great thing. Most communities move forward with social media pages on Facebook. I think that we should really engage in that and use it for a positive thing for our community. And it does fit our communication plan, and it does fit our RC programs. It does fit our master plan. I certainly would hope that we can engage in that and use that for the good of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's all 6 comment cards.
I have one late entry.
Okay.
Evening, Vicki Hopcroft, Oscoda, Michigan. I want to comment on the social media page, the township having a Facebook page, and on the vacant buildings enforcement. First of all, on the social media page, I realize I came late and I may be echoing several people, but I'd like to echo what Mr. Tazier said. I think it's a very, very, very good idea for the township to have a Facebook page without comments, but to provide information. There's a lot of information that there's a lot to be gained from it, and a lot of community to increase by having it. To me, it's a win-win. Then on the vacant building.
Okay, but that's not an agenda item, so vacant building is not an agenda item. So
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
That's
talk
okay,
about
so
that. You're right.
first public comment
Yes.
is reserved for
You're right.
just, so sorry to interrupt, but
No,
just
that's
trying to
okay.
stay the
You're
protocol.
absolutely right. I didn't
And,
think of that.
So
I'll
you
come
can
back.
most definitely make as many comments as you want at the second public comment, but the first is for things that we're going to be acting on this evening, so.
Okay, and in regard to the request of the Art and Placemaking Committee, if Ms. McKenzie is not here, I'd be prepared to take questions on that. I know Mr. Dickerson couldn't be here tonight.
Okay.
With regard
All
to
right.
that.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, I believe we are wrapped up for the first public comment section. Again, we do have a second public comment section at the end of the meeting, at which time you can discuss anything your little hearts desire. Either what we discussed this evening or just something that's in the community or whatever else. So with that then, we are moving on to consent agenda. This evening on the consent agenda, we have the regular meeting minutes from November 28th. I believe there was some corrections that were made, and it was emailed back out and then uploaded in the packet. So any additional comments on those? Okay, then we also have special meeting minutes from December 6th. Are there any comments on those? All right, moving on to finance. We have payment of bills. We have the prepaid December 6th check run for $225,870.36. Are there any specific questions for that check run?
I have one question on there.
Okay.
Let's see. This is on, if I can find this. And I don't want to correct you, Ann, but I don't believe the updated minutes were put into the packet. I think the old minutes are still there.
Oh,
I think that's correct, yes.
okay.
This is, the question I had is on it's page 6 of the payment of bills. I'm trying to find which page it is.
Read it.
Is it page 6? Is that on the 12/6?
Yeah, this is 1201 to 126, and it's under Fund 591, the Water Department. And it has the Tawas Ranger District, USDA Forest Service. One says sewage transmission line, the other was a water transmission pipeline. 2 questions. First, I don't know what that is. Second question is, why would we have a sewage transmission line bill in the water as opposed to the sewer?
The sewage transmission line, that's an easement that we entered into on 6/24/2003 with them. They weren't able to find a ton of information, just that we did have a sewer line running through there that we pay for that easement. And they believed that that water easement was the same as well, and they
Oh, so this is for an easement, not for water?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
just for
all
the
right.
easement use, yeah.
Okay, that's, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Eyeballs are awful. On that run, all right, hearing none, we have a December 13th check run for $2,961.04. Are there any questions on that specific run? Okay, hearing none, we have the DWRF checking report. In addition to what Jamie handed out, correct?
Right.
All right, were there any questions on those? Okay, hearing none. We have the CWSRF checking report. Any questions there? All right, and then we have the check run from the contractors that we paid, which is Catterman and Elmer's at the special meeting that we held. Any questions on those? All right, with that, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support, Worcester Barth.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Worsterbarth to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings? Yes. Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, now moving on to subcommittee reports and project updates. We have our engineering report, progress report. Rick is here. It's in our packet, and he is here to go over it.
Good evening, everyone. I know we just had an engineering report at the end of November, but a few updates to that one. The Phase 4 construction from last year, 2021, we're finalizing that paperwork right now with Eagle. That was the DWRF project, and hopefully we'll have that buttoned up paperwork-wise probably by the first part of January, and that project will be closed out on Eagle's end. We do have a couple of minor things still going on with the contractor, the meter pit with Hershra on River Road. There is still some work that needs to be done there, and they're working on taking care of that. So before we close that out, we'll make sure that that's all taken care of. I'll use Phase 3, Phase 5, the 2 water main projects from this year. We are essentially shut down for the winter months. We do have a formal winter work plan from each contractor on how they're going to maintain the roads, keep an eye on things, make sure everything is all buttoned up so that when supplies start coming in the spring, weather allows it, they will get back up and primarily wrapping up the services will be in the spring, and the bores underneath the railroad are primarily the areas that are still out there. To give you an idea, on Phase 3, we have 62 of 67 residents that have agreed to sign up for water services. And on Phase 5, we have 54 of 68 possible hookups. So we're far exceeding Eagle's requirement with what was in the C2R2 grant, that we had to have at least 50% participation. Some of those numbers might fluctuate a little bit. We're still sorting out some issues where there are some services that are hooked up onto 23 that would make more sense to be hooked up off the new mains. So we're working through that with the water department as far as identifying those. And then also there's a few services that are crossing other property that were hooked up several years ago. And again, we're trying to clean all of that up so that the services along those roads are directly connected to the main that's out in front of their house, so, or their property.
Before you move on, I just had a quick question. I haven't, I guess, driven down Cedar Lake Road in maybe over a week, but are they going to be removing all the construction barrels and all of that? They're not leaving those on the side of the road all winter long, are they?
No, they will, they have a sub-consultant or a subcontractor that takes care of that.
Okay.
And as you're probably well aware, there is thousands of projects across the state, and there's only 4 or 5 traffic maintenance companies. So they are struggling to catch up with everything and pick the barrels up and the barricades and all of that stuff. But the contractor is responsible for keeping those tucked away out of the right of way, and so that the traveling public doesn't interfere with them and stuff. So that's one thing that we're working with them on a regular basis. If there's a windstorm or whatever where a barrel gets rolling around, we'll have them out there taking care of it. So,
Okay.
And we had one instance on on Van Etten. I got a call from Bruce Bolin last Friday afternoon where a waste management truck got stuck. So like I said, we're keeping their foremans are supposed to be out there every week checking those temporary patches in those roads to make sure they're holding up. So.
Okay, thank you.
Phase 6, the coal bath area, that project is, on the design side, is wrapping up. The Eagle permit for that is being finalized and submitted. I don't have a bid opening or an advertisement and bid date yet, but again, I'm assuming that will probably be in maybe late January, early February, so that we would be looking at that area under construction as soon as the weather breaks in the spring. And then also we're starting to go through the remainder of the township water services in the area of the PFAS contamination area to identify that list of services, which will go out as a separate contract to wrap those all up. Kind of in line with what Mr. Palmer was saying, we have obviously, again, part of the reason the project slowed down this year is because of the lack of meter pits and meters. We are pulling together the numbers for next year's projects, and we'll be probably bringing that to the January board meeting to get authorization to place that order. Because with the Phase 6 and the township-wide service line, we're looking at about 300 meter pits for next year. So we want to get that order in now so that we can have them ready when we need them. So, sanitary sewer system improvements. Contractor is finishing up that with the sandblasting and painting of the structures. They have to take care of all the minor issues with hydraulic fluid and any leaks that they have inside the work that they've done, getting that all cleaned up before the painter comes in and wraps that up. Again, hoping to start closing that project out in the month of January. Phase 3 trail project, that project is underway. The contractor, I'm a little concerned, the contractor is behind schedule as far as getting started, is really geared up with the clearing because everybody is aware that we have the rattlesnake issue that we've got to deal with. The end date is we've got to have that clearing done by April 30th. His tree clearing subcontractor should have started in the middle of November, has yet to start yet or is getting ready to start yet, so he's about a month late. He's assuring me that he's still going to be able to meet the deadline, but we all know winter is going to appear one of these days coming up, so which will slow things down even further. And we want to make sure that we stay ahead of schedule so that because we cannot miss that April 30th date as far as getting the clearing done. So
Rick, I just have a question. I drove out River Road a couple of times. It looks like they're still surveying that they're not finished with that yet.
They're actually out there doing the construction staking, so they're
okay.
identifying everything that they need as far as the route, because one of the mitigation measures there is that we have to stay within the trail corridor. We cannot venture outside the trail width. Because then we got to come back next year in between April and October and restore it, and we can't technically go outside of that boundary. So they're out there putting in additional stakes to make sure that the contractor stays where he's supposed to be.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is there a contingency plan in case they don't get those trees cut down in time?
No, there is no contingency plan. He has to have them done by April 30th.
Or else?
Or the project is, well, I won't go there. Okay? So, he's well aware of what the schedule is, so, and there is liquidated damages included in the MDOT contract for this, so.
Oh.
And it's not a cheap daily charge,
Well, I hope they finish
so.
in time.
Coordinating with F&V operations, I know it was brought up. We are looking into the concerns with PFAS. I know F&V is continuing their study as far as trying to identify sources within, or locations of contamination within the township. The entire system has, even though sanitary sewer systems are supposed to be watertight, they're not supposed to allow groundwater into the systems. Well, that's in theory. Groundwater gets into the sanitary sewer system no matter, you know, especially an aged system like the townships is. So a couple of things that we're looking at is the next round possibly of SRF funding, which is out there right now that we're exploring with Eagle, obviously working through Tammy on it, would be bringing a recommendation back to the township, is looking at the other pump stations that we did not address with this year's project, where the wet wells are deteriorated enough that they're allowing groundwater into the wet wells. And groundwater, we know obviously in this area is more likely than not having some of those contaminants in them. So the projects for that would be picking that up to try to reestablish the water tightness of the sanitary system, which will reduce the amount of contaminants getting into the system. The other thing is we are going to be putting in the work plan, if we do go forward with a project with Eagle, for they categorize PFAS as an emergent contaminant. So they're studying it just as much as we're studying it, and other industry participation is, as far as how to treat this and how to capture it and that. So we'll be working with them and possibly setting up some precursors out at the treatment facility so that if and when more specific treatment elements come into play that are more cost effective, that the lagoon system and what we have out there is ready for those. So we're going to be working with them on that as that comes up. Another thing on the water loss, it was said as far as that report that F&V had on the 3/8 inch hole in that one water service and how much water that can lose in a very short, relatively short amount of time is. The other thing is we are working with them on doing a better job at inventorying all of the hydrant flushing that is done, all of the even our projects this summer and the past years, the contractors use a lot of water out of the system when they do their live taps of the existing system to connect the new main to. All of the service taps and all that stuff use an amount of water. So we're going to do a better job at documenting that so that in a yearly basis we can set that aside as more of a standard use maintenance loss of water versus the unknown leaks that are in the system that are nearly impossible to identify. With all the technology that's out there, it's very difficult to pin down, especially as what was said with sandy soils, that water dissipates very quickly until it becomes so saturated. So still looking in those areas.
Are there any detectable treatments that we can put in the water that you can drink that wouldn't like barium for a specific type of scan in a medical facility? Can they put something in the water that wouldn't hurt anybody, but we'd be able to track it and see pools of it in certain areas? Nothing like that?
That technology doesn't exist or is not available to.
Sounds like a new niche market. All right, thank you.
So, I'm not aware of any technology like that. And again, water loss is an issue for everybody, every community that has a water distribution system.
Oh,
and
sure.
such,
I'm just, we're talking,
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer's talking, we're going to move these meter pits towards the road.
That's
You
going to
know,
help
I
a
mean,
lot.
that would have effectively, we would have been able to track that water loss,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then that section of pipe would have been the customer's responsibility.
Right.
So I just, yeah,
Even what you have done over the year, since 2017, since I've been up here working, as far as the improvements you've done to your billing system and all of that, that has significantly also cut into the amount of water loss. That, you know, there was a lot of water that was probably being used that wasn't getting billed for and all of that. So the improvements that you've already done in that area has significantly cut into that number, so. Working with WTA on the facilities, gathering of information. We did get the utility information on the existing facilities. They are looking at that now and comparing that to multi-buildings versus a consolidated facility, and hopefully would have a presentation ready for the Planning Commission sometime in January, and then a bigger broad-based presentation after we work with the Planning Commission on that. Rowe Professional Services Company is working towards having the bid book and contract book ready for the Mission Street slip lining project as soon as the agreement between the township and the Air Force can be worked out. Again, plan is there to have that advertised sometime in January or early February, with construction starting on that as soon as the weather dries up in the spring.
Rick, I had a question on that.
Yes.
There was a memo in our packet several meetings ago that had specific information about the slip lining and what was going to be done. Where did that information come from? Was that done by Rowe in investigating that line, or was
No, that was
submitted by the Air Force contractor?
That information was provided to the township by the Air Force, and Rowe has taken that information now and went through and basically verified that to make sure that it is covering everything that is needed to be done on that Mission Street line.
Okay.
And then also they're looking at adding some additional quantity in there that if you know, once they get into it, because that I think is somewhat dated based on videotaping and inspection that was done over the last several years, not necessarily recent investigations. So they're going to be looking at adding some additional quantity into the bid, and then if it's needed, the quantity will be there. If it's not needed, it won't be used. So, but they also have included in their services going out there and doing spot checks on that data, which they're in the process of doing.
Okay, because I won't say that I don't trust the Air Force, but I don't trust the Air Force. If Rowe Engineering does an inspection of this line and says, and determines what's needed, then I think that's what we need to move on, because what I'm looking at here is with the patches that they're talking about doing, we're only doing 191 feet out of 630 feet of storm sewer line. So about a third.
Right. And the patches, actually, they have gotten through that, and that is fairly accurate as far as that goes.
Okay.
The size of the lining, the type of lining used versus the water, the heated water versus the infrared, that's where they're going to work with some of the additional quantities, because the infrared, that heating of the liner is a little more effective and a little longer lasting than the other one. So that's where they're looking at some additional quantity, so that if we get out there and they find more issues, we've got quantity built into the project to cover it.
Okay, so Rowe is investigating
Yes.
what actually needs to be done, and then comparing that to what the
Yes.
Air Force contractors put in? Okay, and we're still waiting on the agreement from the Air Force? Okay. All right, thank you.
The other thing is we did look at an issue with the fishing pier out at Old Orchard Campground. It appears at the bottom of the stairwell, the bottom is moving, or it has moved in the past. Al had me out there and looked at it. I took the information back to Roe, and the thought is there's no imminent problem or danger that we need to be concerned of. We're just going to monitor it for this upcoming season and look at a more permanent repair for the budget process this time next year. So that would be for 2024, a little bit more substantial project at that time. But we think that again, with monitoring and all that, and obviously if we notice something that comes up, we will have that stairwell blocked off. The handicap ramp can still be used. That's a separate component of it, but the stairwell for the other pedestrians would have to be blocked off if needed. So, the only other thing on here is I have reached out to Gary Peters' office. We had heard that there was, that funding that was possibly coming up for 2023. Have not heard back from him, but I'm guessing that because of the budget issues that are going on in Washington, that's kind of where that's hung up at as far as for 2023. So, and then later on in the meeting, you have the resolution for the Sparks grant, which is due a week from today, and I can answer more questions when that comes up. So. That's my report.
Okay. Does anybody have any board members have any additional questions for Rick?
No, thank you.
No? All right, thank you, Rick. Okay.
I have one for you.
Speak up.
Yep. Rick, the lift station at Perimeter in Georgia, will there be SRF funds or C2R2 to help with the issues that are ongoing there, since we do have housing? That's the only housing projects
Is that the odor issues?
Yeah.
Yes, that's part of closing out the current project. We're seeing how much money is left in that program, and there should be funds available. And then that will tell us what we can do in addition to, as I said earlier on, the improvements to the controls and moving the sewage through the system much more efficiently should significantly help with that. Not going to say that it will totally eliminate it, because what happens is, the sanitary sewer flow sits in the pipe and becomes septic. That's the odor that is being identified. So hopefully we move the system or move the flow through much more efficiently. And then there are some chemical additives and some other carbon filters and stuff that can be added, and we'll see exactly kind of what is the best approach with the funds that we have left. And then we'll also be looking at that in future projects to make sure that we again continue to improve that situation, not only there but actually in other areas of the township where it could start becoming also an issue.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Sorry, thank you. This is under the topic of broadband. I was just wondering what opportunities you see there for the township or for funding that we can apply to the township.
There are several grants that are out there as far as that goes, and I know actually through the Safe Routes to School, I had some discussions with the school district, and they're looking at some opportunities. So as soon as I get through this Sparks grant, then there's like 3 or 4 other ones, and broadband is one of them that we want to look at and see what is available for the township and what you can tap into. But it is from the federal level and the state level through the ARPA funds and all of that stuff. They did push out a fair number of grant dollars for that. So you have to, it's again a point system where, working with the public libraries, the school districts and all that stuff, that gathers you points for improving the system, and especially the rural portion of the township.
Right. Do any of these opportunities require us to partner up with a provider?
I have not found that yet. I have not, but I haven't gotten that far into it. I don't think that, I think it's basically what the township or the entity would be going after. If you're then successful with getting the grant funding, then you basically, I think, go through a normal procurement process as far as from a vendor or whatever.
Right,
So.
okay, thank you.
And Tim, just on that, so you remind me, since I know you're interested in that, the county's working on that as well. And I know they've hired an engineer and gone after some other grant funds, but remind me and I'll get that information over to you.
Okay.
Plug you into that. That's
Sure,
great.
thanks.
Okay, so thank you very much, Rick, and you're going to hang around for
Yeah.
other topics. Okay, then we are now moving on to the superintendent's report. First on, number one, is the 2023 budget adoption.
Okay, your packet contains the 2023 budget for the Township Board's approval. I did look at page 38 that Jeremy was referring to. I see the boo-boo, and I will get that fixed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so do you need us to approve this here or when we get to the resolution component of it?
You can approve it here and then approve the resolution.
Okay, is there any further discussion then, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 budget as presented with the one correction.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings to approve the 2023 budget as presented with that one change or correction. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Old Orchard Park camera purchase request.
Okay, as some of you may remember, the board approved the purchase of the network video recorder for the future camera system in Old Orchard Park at the January 24, 2022 regular board meeting. The park would like to now request the purchase of the new camera system through Ketchum Cams in the amount of $23,515.44. This package includes 27 cameras to be placed at various locations throughout the park. Utilizing this new system will provide 24-hour monitoring of the township's assets and also provide better security for the at-risk and high-traffic areas as well.
Okay, and I believe Greg Alexander is here to answer any questions because you were the key person in regard to putting this proposal together, or?
All of our other camera systems are my headache/responsibility.
Okay, all right. Did you want to add anything to what Tammy's already presented?
No, we did a walkthrough at the park when we were doing some of the other projects previously. Funding wasn't there at the time. We bought that NVR because our current system utilizes the witness system. Alibi was switching to a new system. We wanted to make sure that when we did this project, everything would integrate properly. So we already have that piece. We just need the cameras and the wire.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
I understood that the camera system we put in down at the beach park and at the hall could be monitored in the police department, but also in the patrol cars. Is that correct?
That's correct, and this would be the same.
And this would be the same. Very good. Thank you.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a camera system for Old Orchard Park in the amount of $23,515.44 from Fund 218-000-984.000.
Support, Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the purchase as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, thank you for that summary as well, Greg, and all your time that you spent on it. When will those be installed then?
As soon as we can get the cameras and get the Ketchum Cam people out.
So we can do some, I mean,
He's hoping he can start in December,
okay,
depending on shipping timeframes on Bigfoot.
so we can get everything in place far before any campers get there.
He's got a big project coming up early spring, late winter. He wants to be done with ours before that starts.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I can add too that this will help. I know Al's had some issues when the park's closed with people going there and having fires and things. It'll help with that too.
For sure. Okay, moving on, sorry, I gotta find my agenda. To the row engineering invoices, we have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yes, the first one I would like to note was the one that I wanted to make sure that the price was accurate. The
Okay.
first invoice, 105,975, and it is correct at the 27,370.
Okay.
Just making a note of that.
All right, so, sorry, let me pull this
I'll
up.
make a motion, since I was the one that brought it up, that this was the correct amount, to pay the row invoice 105,975 in the amount of $27,370 to be paid from C2R2 funds once they're received in our account.
Support, Worcester Barth.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Wusterbarth to approve invoice 105,975. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 106,240 for Phase 3 water system improvements in the amount of $14,225. Any questions or comments on that, or is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve invoice 106,240, the amount of $14,225 from C2R2 after the reimbursement process is complete.
Support Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings for invoice 106,240. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 106,241, Phase 6 water system improvements, $4,105. Any comments on that, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve invoice 106,241 for the Phase 6 water system improvements in the amount of $4,105 to be paid from C2R2 after the funds are received.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton to approve invoice 106,241. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Invoice 106,242 is for the 2022 water system improvements. The amount on that is $4,772.50. Any comments on that? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve invoice 106,242 for the 2022 water system improvements in the amount of $4,772.50 to be paid from the C2R2 after directions from Eagle on the C2R2 reimbursement process and Township receiving the funds from Eagle.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Ms. McGuire for invoice 106,242. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice number 106,252, which is the wastewater pump station improvements. The amount on that is $38,963.35. Is there any questions on that? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I have one question on that, if I may.
Too late, I said. No.
Oh, okay. And I know there isn't anyone here from Rowe, but maybe Mr. Freeman can answer this question. I'm just curious why they have an engineering firm as a consultant in the amount of $14,788. I think one of the reasons we hired Rowe is that they're a diverse engineering company that handle almost everything. I'm just curious what Dixon Engineering does that,
Dixon Engineering is a sub to Rowe. They are the ones that are the painting and the cleaning sub-engineering contractor. That as far as the inside of the wet wells and all of that stuff, it's a pretty specialized discipline. And as far as coating existing structures instead of, new structures, they are the experts in there, going in there and cleaning them, repairing them, and then painting them to last as long as a new structure will. So Dixon was a sub row that specialized in that area.
okay. So when you're painting these wet wells, you're an engineering firm then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they put the specs together for
Sure.
the green is the actual subcontractor with RCL that is completing that activity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, with that, is our motion to approve?
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve invoice 106-252 in the amount of $38,963.35 to be paid from CWSRF funds once received in our account.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Ms. McGuire to approve invoice 106-252. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Next invoice is 106-254. This is for as-needed services. The amount is $5,877.50. Any questions on that? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move that invoice number 106-254 from Rowe as needed services in the amount of $5,877.50 be paid from account 101-299-801.000.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 106-254. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the last invoice, 106-267 is for the Oscoda Exploration Trail. The amount on this is a flat $8,000. Any comments or questions on this? All right, is there a motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve invoice 106-267 for Iosco Exploration Trail in the amount of $8,000 to be paid from 101-751-880-572.
Okay, is there support?
Support, Spencer.
There's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 106-267. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. I know last year we received quite a few late invoices from Rowe, and I know that Tammy's already asked them to submit everything, and we think we have everything, but we do have,
I've been told this is it for
yeah, they're saying that
2022.
this is it, but obviously we do have a little bit of time to wrap up, 2022, but we don't want to get caught like we did.
This is everything.
Yeah.
This is 31st.
All right, well, hopefully we don't have a
Okay.
situation like last year. All right, so now we are moving on to the resolutions and ordinances section of the agenda. First on is what we had our public hearing earlier tonight, and the Township Board just approved the budget. So with that, we're going to need to approve Resolution 2022-39. Is there anybody that would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-39 as it relates to the 2023 budget as presented.
Support, Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Sutton to approve Resolution 2022-39. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
Can I just add that everybody should have a bound copy shortly after this evening?
Okay. All
And
right, for our holiday reading?
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, then moving on to Resolution 2022-40, budget amendments.
Okay, so these are all the amendments needed for the end of the year. We do this every year, unfortunately. And this should be, we tried to plan for everything till the end of the year. So, okay, just to balance it out.
Anybody have any questions on the, those amendments that are included or attached to the resolution for Tammy?
Yeah, I do have a question. It's on page 87 of the packet. It's the list of 3 warnings.
Pardon me?
It's on page 87 of the packet. It's the list of 3 warning messages from BSNA saying that the transaction is not a balance for a particular fund.
Yes.
And I just wondered if you could explain that.
That just means that the adjustments we made didn't balance in certain areas. We'll use the fire department for a good example. There had to be amendments made rather than just adjustments because there wasn't enough money to balance out. So that's, and that's why I put these in here, so you would know that some of those needed to be appropriated, period, without adjusting.
And the appropriation is what's designated as CR for credit. Is that
Yes.
correct? Very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any additional questions? All right, hearing none, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2022-40. Is there support?
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Spencer to approve Resolution 2022-40. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Now on is the Resolution 2022-41, which is for the MDNR Spark Grant. And I believe that's what Rick has moved over to the table for, to answer some questions. Because I know I have a couple, but I'll let you guys start. Anybody have any questions?
I have one question anyway. On the very first page, it has a $1 million MDNR Spark grant for Orchard Beach Park property. Are we talking about Old Orchard Park Beach or Oscoda Beach Park?
Right. Old Orchard.
Oscoda.
Supposed to be Oscoda Beach Park.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
Very good.
I noticed earlier that in your report that we didn't get one of the grants that we applied to for the beach park. We were denied, or?
Yeah, that was back in June, I believe, the CBDG. Yeah, we were not granted that. So, and this was during the debrief with MEDC. This is one that they suggested that the township pursue when this came out this fall. And there's going to be 3 attempts or 3 opportunities for a Spark grant. This is the first one, and the amount that they are funding through this application process is $15 million, and then there'll be 2 more in '23. Don't know exactly when, but each of those will be at $25 million.
And similar to other programs, I'm assuming there's certain things they're trying to target as where you get more bonus points and so on?
Right.
Is that why we're maybe doing some handicap accessible playground areas?
Yes, it's really geared towards, how it benefits the community from, education, tourism, handicap accessibility, not just mobility, but visual, a whole round of different disabilities. We have to go through what they call a universal design of each of the project sites. There's 7 components, and it's a pretty specific scoring system, and we're being told it's going to be highly competitive. So that's why in the resolution I have it, other than the playground equipment at Old Orchard and Foot Park, I have not been, or we don't have it specifically what we're doing at Ratliff and Oscoda Beach Park. It's more or less going to be probably around the facilities, the bathroom facilities. We have the fishing pier and the kayak launch at Ratliff. It'll be those are the components that we're putting together, but we need to, from an estimating standpoint, but then also a point scoring system with this universal design component. We want to try to maximize our points. So being specific in the resolution, we didn't have to be, just as long as it was giving the location of where the improvements were going to be. So it will be specific in the application, but at this time for this, it's going to be up until Thursday afternoon that we'll be running, dry runs on the point system to see how we score the highest.
So the grant application is due in this Thursday?
The grant application is due through My Grants next Monday, the 19th.
The 19th, okay.
And on these three proposals, you have no match required?
No match is required.
But it says in the next paragraph that Oscoda Township commits, if necessary, local funds from other grant programs.
Right, because we know from the estimates we did in the spring, Oscoda Beach Park is a $4 million project to do all of the components. The two playground equipments, we're trying to keep those in the $100,000 range, but again, based on current material, current availability, those estimates for the grant might exceed 100,000. So again, that's why we wanted to put the disclaimer in there that if the projects are over the grant allotment, that we'll be exploring several other opportunities for other grants to make up that difference.
And would part of that be our ARPA funds that we receive?
That is a possibility.
Okay.
So the projects identified came from who? What subcommittee? What group is putting those together?
Well, Orchard Park, or Oscoda Park, we had obviously went through that process back in the spring.
So it's the same, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's the same as what we submitted the last grant application that we failed on?
Well, again,
similar?
we're not going to be able to go after the full 4 million, so that's what we're doing, is we're going through and identifying $1 million worth of it.
Okay.
So the bathroom and pavilion is a $500,000 component.
Okay.
The improvements to the boardwalk, as far as converting that from treated lumber to synthetic material, which eliminates maintenance or minimizes maintenance, is probably a $750,000 component. So we're already, like I said, in those two areas, probably exceeding the $1 million. So, but as far as like the band shell, the skate park and all that stuff, I do not see those as being part of this.
Okay. I guess I'm right. One voice. I think it's great if you're starting from a blank slate to move things around and whatever, but when you're not starting from a blank slate and we have things that are working quite fine where they are, to actually aesthetically move something that's going to cost us $100,000 when we really need to do something with the bathhouse, I think is more important, and I'm just wanting us to go there. I mean, we need to operate like we would our own budget at home. I wish I could start like for my house, like get a blank slate, but I can't, and I don't have the budget to do that. So neither do we with the taxpayers' dollar. So I think we need to be fiscally responsible and look at the fact that our bathhouse has had ongoing issues for sewer. We have, in my opinion, a big thing is the entrance coming into the beach park because of the impact that the hotel is going to make. Again, they are not on any of the beach park property whatsoever, but the gateway into our beach park is obviously going to be affected, and we've talked about a roundabout there, parking, all of that. I feel that we need to address right away so that we are looking at the community's best interests and, baking in the Holiday Inn Express to flow nicely, everything. So that's, I guess, where I'm hoping that we can focus on. But again, that's just my thought.
But that is kind of where we're looking at the dollars that are available, and then again, the points that are needed to score the most points are going to come from those types of facilities. The fishing pier and the kayak launch at Ratliff Park is going to score
Right.
high based on that. The need for handicap accessible playground equipment and playground area at Old Orchard and Foot, from what I understand, has been kind of in the planning stage for several years to do something out there, so that's kind of where that came from, so.
Okay.
But the blueprint for most of these are coming from the master plan.
Correct. Yeah, the Parks and Rec plan is the, an approved current Parks and Rec plan is part of the process. We need that on the books, which is there. And again, the fact that we have applied for some of this in other areas and have been declined, not going to say it helps, but again, we're being directed by some of those agencies to go after this. And then what we're finding out is if we're not successful in this first go around, they haven't committed to it, but we're nearly automatically put into the next 2 rounds as far as trickle down. We still have the ability to go in and tweak it, at those times as far as when those applications are due. But again, it kind of is a cascading effect as far as the communities that get funded and those that, I'll say similar to the C2R2. We were right at that line that we didn't get funded, and then when funds became available, then it started to fund our projects, so.
Right, and I understand that it's part of the master plan, but that's also a giant wish list that has to evolve based on budgets.
Yep.
So that's my thought process into focusing on what we need to begin with, and then go after the I don't want to call it foo-foo stuff, but a little bit more, of the extras down the road once we get our core taken care of.
The Sparks grant will not fund any utility work. So any sewer improvements or water improvements at Orchard Beach or Oscoda Beach Park can't be part of this. It's got to be about the facilities. So again, that's where we're kind of focusing on and getting the maximum point, system out of there, and then obviously be working with Tammy to go over that before, because it has to be uploaded by her to the My Grant system. So.
Right. Now we know where the Orchard Beach part came from.
Yeah.
Just kidding, sorry. All right, any other questions?
Just one comment in your application. If part of that is redoing the bathhouse and an expansion of the splash pad, the Oscoda Lions Club has committed $5,000 towards the expansion of that splash pad project. So just so that's on the
Radar.
table to consider. I don't know if that adds any points.
Yeah, anything that's already committed, even the donation of the lumber out at Ratliff Park, I mean, that is all going to be worded into the application, that you have already started the process of, trying to piece these projects together the best you can, so that the grant money then will subsidize that.
Yeah, just wanted to make you aware of that's, the Oscoda Lions have committed $5,000 to that project when and if it's undertaken, so.
Okay, so with that, do we have a motion to approve Resolution 2022-41?
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-41 for the MDNR Spark Grant as presented.
Support. Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Ms. McGuire for Resolution 2022-41. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbark?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Great.
One other comment, if I might, I should have added this before, but also on the work at Ratliff Park for the fishing pier and handicap boat launch, Vila has committed $4,000 to that project.
Right.
So just so we have those things to be added to if that helps with any points on our grant process.
One additional thing, we will be going and looking for letters of support, similar to what we have done on the other grant programs. And then what we really need here is help with the disability network. We've identified Midland as kind of the basis, I think, that covers this area for the disability network. If anybody has any information if different than that, please provide it. And then also disabled American veterans and all of that stuff. We need three letters of support from 3 disability, you know, I don't know if the Alcona Health has a rehab facility or the VA hospital. I mean, if anybody can direct us to who I need to reach out to get.
Well, we have an outpatient clinic that the VA does,
Right.
and they could probably put you in contact, because they have a patient administrator out
Okay.
there. So you would contact Jen Lee there, and she could put you in contact with the right.
Okay, I'll work with Tammy then
Yep.
on getting, okay.
Yep.
So,
And I'm not familiar with the first one you said,
the disability network.
yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
that, yeah.
It says on their website that Midland covers this area, so I'm
Okay.
gonna reach out to them and confirm that, so.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. We did a roll call, right? Sorry, I got lost. Okay, all right, thanks, Rick, for that information. All right, moving on to other. First is the auto dialer discussion placeholder. And again, we're keeping it on the agenda because we are waiting we haven't tabled anything, but we're waiting on the county because they're implementing something that we might be able to just tag on. correct?
On that note, it's funny that it came up in public comment, because Tammy and I had a discussion about how long it's taking them to get this done.
Yeah.
Would the board entertain making it happen and spending the $7,000 today to get the system done? Or-
No. I mean, I'd like to see I have a 911 meeting on, I keep forgetting if it's Wednesday or Thursday. Sorry, I have an airport authority as well. So Wednesday I can,
Bug them?
sure.
Awesome.
Yep. I mean, I'm not saying it's not important, but in the same sense, it's $7,000, you know.
Oh, yeah,
If we
I
don't have
understand,
to
yeah.
spend it, we can tag team at $0, then that's more that we can spend on other things.
You might want to ask them also depending on what's taking them so long, because if it's going to take us this long to get any configurations done for just our area, then
Right.
maybe it would behoove us to just buy our own system.
Okay, I will, I haven't actually looked at the packet yet, but I'll see if it's on the agenda, if not, I'll ask Mike Eller where it's at, so.
I know I mentioned this before, but BS&A program and utility billing, you can put people's email addresses in there and we can email notifications out. I mean, I still haven't heard anything of why we haven't pursued that. We have a software system that does these things.
Well, I think it's that everybody was appreciated the email, but not everybody checks their email regularly.
Right.
But everybody's got their computer in their hand now, contrary to what our teachers told us.
Okay. Great. Number 2 has been postponed, correct?
Yes, I sent a note to Tammy on Wednesday. I didn't have time to get my bullet points put together. It'll be in the first meeting in January.
Okay. Number 3 is 2023 schedule for township board meetings. It's a standard that we do every year. It's our meeting schedule. I guess I've brought this up before. I'm just going to throw it out there again. I would really like to see us start a little bit earlier than 7 o'clock. I know, I think, 6:30, 6 o'clock would be great. I think that 7 o'clock, everybody starts getting a little bit.
Do we know why it's at 7?
Just the way it's been. I know, I believe Oscoda Township starts at 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, their meetings start at 5. So, I mean, 5 could be a little tight for people getting out of work, so on, but, I mean, I feel like 6 o'clock would be, huh?
I don't want to do 5. That's
Yeah,
not fair
but-
for people that want to try.
But I just want to throw that out there, because I do think when we have long meetings too, then we're not wrapping up until 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and there's nobody that is still fresh in the mind at that point in time. Well, I know I'm not. You guys can speak for yourselves, so, but I guess I'd like to see us start a little earlier, like at 6 or 6:30, but,
I would love that as well.
I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are.
Well, I would say we did change the planning commission meetings to 6 o'clock.
Do you like that better?
I'm retired, it doesn't matter to me.
As long as they're not 9 o'clock, right? As long as they're not 9 o'clock in
As
the
long
morning,
as it's not
that's
9
fine.
o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
All right.
I guess I'd be okay with going to 6:30. I just want to give people enough time to get out of work, get something to eat, and then be able to come to the meeting, so.
I agree.
I think 6 o'clock is too soon.
Okay,
I agree.
so
6:30 could be fine.
6:30?
6:30 is fine.
All right.
Does that work?
I'm good with that.
Well, I would move to approve our public notice township board meeting schedule with an update of 6:30 PM.
Can I ask one question on the schedule itself? April, we don't have a meeting on what would normally be the 10th. That's the Monday after Easter. Is that a holiday for the?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Spencer
Support.
and support by Mr. Sutton.
I'll take the half an hour.
For the meeting schedule as presented, along with changing the meeting start time to 6:30 PM. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. It's a little bit about, it's related just because of the Shoreline Players. I was just wondering, do we have a contract with them? Or is
Yes.
there, pardon?
Yes, I believe we do.
Oh, I guess we better double check with them.
Yes. I
Thumbs
believe
up
we do.
on 6:30? I can't see through the dark tinted
I think
screen.
I think I saw
What did he say?
this.
You might have
Thumbs
fainted.
up? Is that-
I was just kidding.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs
Okay,
up. Okay.
all right,
Thank
so we're
you.
good there too. All
Good
right,
catch, Mr. Cummings.
good thinking, Tim.
Yours.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Moving on then to part-time clerical position hire request.
Okay, so the Chief David, we had several applicants for his, it would be for the police department, part-time clerical worker. We had several very good applicants this time around, and he is recommending the hiring of Patricia Halverson to begin January 3rd, 2023.
Okay. Good that we had qualified applicants.
Yes, and we got quite a few, which is
Nice.
unusual.
All right, is there any questions or motion to approve?
I would make a motion to approve the hiring of Patricia Holverson to fill the vacancy of part-time clerical worker in the police department with a tentative start date of January 3rd, 2023.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Ms. McGuire, to approve the part-time clerical position as presented. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. The bill payment authorization?
So this is another annual request at this time in the year for the clerk and treasurer to be able to pay bills during the holiday season till the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Right, which, because our next meeting isn't until January something.
9th.
9th.
9th, okay. All right, is there any further discussion, or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the clerk and treasurer to pay the outstanding bills for the township in the month of December.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Westerbarth for the authorization for clerk and treasurer to pay bills prior to our next meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Number 6, administrative services specialist position revisited.
Okay, so I apologize, I forgot to bring this back to the last township board meeting, which thankfully Mr. Wushbarth kindly reminded me to bring it back. So Ms. Diggs had turned down the position, and I am requesting from the board some direction on if you'd like to proceed with this or
Proceed
not.
with
This position.
I think we were creating, I hate to use that word, but we were trying to make some adjustments into the fact that our assessing department was going out of the building outhouse doesn't sound right, out of the building, and kind of scrambling to put job duties there, and it seems that we don't need to do that, I guess, at this time.
I guess I disagree. I think we still need to look at this position. I'm not a big fan of not having somebody being able there for records. I know Ms. McGuire reported that it seems to be going seamlessly. I've had a couple people ask me, who's going to take care of this? Who's going to maintain the records? And I have those same concerns, so I know we left it as if she didn't, Ms. Dix didn't accept the position, we would revisit. So I'd like the board to revisit that as a potential position as outlined 3 meetings ago, where it would be shared between the clerk, the treasurer, and our superintendent.
So I have been keeping track of how many people have come in to go to the assessing office, and the majority of them come into the treasurer's office anyways, because they're either coming in to pay their taxes, pay their water bill, and they're seeing the sign that's on the door, and they're saying, you know, the office is closed, and we're like, yep, here's the new information. Is there something we can help you with? Yes, I need to change my mailing address. They're usually changing it for their taxes. So what I've been doing, we've been just doing it for them, like making a copy, and I've been emailing it to the new assessing office. I had only 3 people come in the last week of November, and 4 people come in the first week of December, either to change their names, change their addresses, turn in veterans exemption forms, and have a few other questions. Actually, there's a lot of information for the assessing that we did with the GIS system that through the county, that a lot of the things that are in their folders that are in the assessing office, they are now online and they can print them. Actually, we helped a resident, came in and wanted the lot lines for their plot or for their property and what the dimensions of their house was and stuff, and we turned our screen around at the counter, showed them this is where you can find it online, and we printed it for them and gave it to them. So a lot of those things are available online through the assessing program. Same with your anything really for that's in your folder is online. That information is public information.
Not all that information is online, Jamie. I can go pull up my folders right now and I can tell you 60% of it's not there.
And I can tell you that if you knock a hole in the wall between the treasurer's office and the assessing office, because it used to be one big room when it was the library, we could walk over there, get the folder out, make a copy for somebody, and be done with it. There is not enough work to keep somebody full-time doing that position. There isn't.
Well, I didn't ask it to be full-time for that position. It's going to be a shared resource. And if I remember, it was 25 or 20, 25, 55. 55 being for Ms. Klein, 25 being for the clerk, and 20% being for your office, so we would get out of these seasonal type temporary help.
So maybe we can go back to the committee that was formed, which was the clerk, the treasurer, and the superintendent, now that we have,
Mr. Wishworth was on that.
Mr. Wishworth was on, okay. And discuss it more, including flow, you know, of how things would actually work. I mean, again, we were doing it with Helen in mind, I guess, because she was familiar with things. But now we can look at maybe switching some offices around for flow. Maybe we actually have a computer set up so that a resident can actually pull up, we can show them how to pull up their information. They could even print it, you know, we could offer that service. I don't know.
Kiosk, yeah.
I mean, like a kiosk or something, but.
And if you're looking for
yeah.
duties for this person, I know that there, Josh showed me a gigantic room of paper that has yet to be scanned in for any type of electronic reference. So
Right.
there's always going to be something to do in there, I think, for many years to get all that stuff taken care of.
Disagree. I think that you're creating a full-time position that's not necessary.
Well, maybe it's not a full, maybe after you, what do you call that when you do, not a charrette, but where you like move things around and flow it and discuss it. I mean, maybe you come up with it, it's a part-time, you know, it's a 20-hour a week or it's something. Maybe it's not a full-time employee.
We could do committee meeting. We could have the committee meet again if.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and you know, for flow-wise, and just see how it works. Are you good with that? Have another committee meeting and discuss? Steve? Josh?
I'm good.
Jamie?
I'm good with that,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll make a motion that we postpone this agenda item until the committee can meet and come back to the board with a recommendation or not.
Okay.
Support, Spencer.
All right, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbar, support by Mr. Spencer, to postpone the discussion till the committee can meet and bring back a recommendation to the board. Roll call, please.
Catch up to you guys real quick.
Mr. Barth and Spencer.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worsterbart?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the Wilbur Fire Services renewal.
So you have the letter and the calculations and the two budgets associated to complete the Wilbur shared fire service. 3.24% of the operational costs added in with overhead and building allocation, just like we do for a SABL. Any questions?
So you're asking us what this evening? Sorry.
To approve the letter. This whole
memo.
information, the letter, the breakdown, and the two budgets is what I would send to Wilbur Township.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions in regard to the information that Tammy would like to submit?
No.
Goes along with our budget.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve our superintendent's letter as presented, that she can forward to Wilbur Township.
Support, Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth, support by Mr. Sutton to approve the information as presented for Wilbur Fire Services. A roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worsterbart?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Number 8, bad debt write-off request for delinquent personal property. Ms. McGuire?
Okay, another housekeeping thing. Occasionally, I get together some of the old delinquent personal properties that we haven't been able to collect due to being deceased, being bankrupt, left town and took the property, just not around. So I go through this process that's outlined according to Public Act 20, and I presented the board with a memo saying that the potential revenue that we will lose, it's potential because we've never collected it, so the potential revenue loss that we're losing would be about $1,839.38. I do want to let the board know that over that 5-year span, though, we did collect $6.6 million in the township millage, so it's kind of a minute portion of the collected revenue that we have done. So I just wanted to let you know in my memo what the process is. I actually am going to be trying to do this without the attorney's help this time and save us a little money and represent the township in court myself. So.
If you decide you need help, though, you'll
Yes.
call up our
Yeah.
township attorney, township
Well, I'm
counsel.
going to do a local attorney because instead of having somebody else do it because somebody comes to court. So, again, only because the attorney that's helped me in the past has the outline and he's just going to give it to me and I can fill in all the blanks myself.
Who is
And
this
then,
attorney?
Rob Eppert was the attorney that's done this process with me in the past several times. So,
Are you recommending you're going back with Rob Eppert again?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying you're using Rob Eppert again?
I'm going to get the documents,
Oh.
like the format from him, and do it myself, and then go through the steps and go to court myself with it, probably.
I really think you should use the township attorneys that have been approved by the board for this process. I know that that's frustrating.
So that'll cost us a lot more money for them to
understand that.
recreate the petitions. Okay, well, if you guys want to pay for it, that's fine.
Do we need a vote?
You know what they say, somebody represents them as a client, they have a fool for a client. Or as their own lawyer, they have a fool for a client.
Yeah.
That's the saying.
It's literally just, they ask a couple questions when I get up there, and that's pretty much it. So I figured I could save the township by just doing that myself, but that's fine with me.
I would tend to agree. I think you probably could handle that. I don't think these are major lawsuits that you have to fight in court. I would be willing to let our treasurer handle this on her own. I think she's capable of doing that if she has the information that's needed.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make that a motion.
Support, Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton, to approve Ms. McGuire's request to process on her own. I'll say it that way. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
I suppose, yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried.
You know, as I'm looking at this, I do have a quick question for you, Jamie. So, is the first column of names in the middle the old owner, and then the column on the right, the new owner? Is that how that works?
That's for the utility.
That's for the next write-off for the utility billing. That's
We don't
not
have
mine.
personal, there's not information in the packet on the individual. There's just a summary.
It was the
and
utility
amount.
billing.
That's for your next topic.
Got it.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
I would like to make one comment about this personal property thing. And you're probably aware of this maybe, but there's been new legislation that's been passed, which has raised the deduction on personal property from $80,000 to $180,000. And the legislature has put in place funds for the township for that lost revenue, that $100,000 that we would be losing in revenue on the taxes on personal property. So moving forward, we will be receiving money from the state for that personal property, and the taxpayers will be paying less on their personal property because they can deduct up to $180,000.
Accurate, Bill. The only thing with that is they have to make sure they turn in their forms every year that you get in your assessments in February. It's very crucial that you do that. Unfortunately, you have to do it every single year, but if you turn that in, then you will be exempt for personal property taxes up to that amount. Also, one of the things that maybe Nancy's going to maybe still help us with is filing the documents for that money to get it back from the state, because there is a calculation that they have to do for that, and that would probably be something that would be out of scope for Al in assessing.
Okay, good points. All right, moving on to the bad debt write-off request for water and sewer.
Okay, so at the last meeting, it was requested that I put together the list of current owners for the bad debt write-off. So that has been provided to you, and I'm hoping for some direction on what you would like to do with these.
I think I understand Mr. Cummings' question. I think some of these are rentals and it's blaring.
Yeah,
I wasn't the landlord.
Correct. Yeah, I'm seeing that, and just to clarify, the name in the middle, is that the old owner, and the new owner is the one on the right?
Yes.
Well, why
Yes.
is that the one property that is sixth on the list is an old owner who is now the same new owner on the right?
It actually should have been a rental at that time. And our utility billing clerk misunderstood what I had asked of her, and she was thinking that it didn't need to be under his name. So, but yes, his should have been just applied and paid. It was an old account, an old inactive account that transferred to his new. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but that one can be taken care of.
By that property owner.
Right.
Right.
Also, the last one there, we're on for Holistic Pets and National Service Investments. That actually was a rental too, because National Service Investments actually owns that property.
Yeah, NSI owns the whole.
Yep,
Yeah.
so that's,
I don't think we should be writing off any bad debt for a landlord. It's,
Well, and that's, if you would like me to have those transferred, that's all I need.
Well, I think we had a resolution some years ago on this exact point, and we made a big deal about making the landlord responsible for this. So I think what we have here is an incomplete presentation for us to make a decision.
Well, actually, a lot of these are new owners from previous owners, and especially the one from 2012. I'm not exactly sure why that sat for so long, but this has changed hands a couple of times.
So,
But
right, so that one is not a, that was never a, or we don't know if it was a rental property in 2012, because we didn't actually have, back in 2012, we didn't have the policy in place where, I mean, where
Yeah, it
the
wasn't.
property owner had to have it in their name, that would have been in the tenant's name.
That
So-
one? That one?
So I mean, that person identified on the list could have been a tenant, but they could have also been the property owner.
Yeah, it's
Right.
very hard to tell because
You'd have
that
to look at
actually
that.
didn't take place until 2019, and I believe it was October of 2019 when
Right,
we
that we switched the policy.
redid the utility ordinance.
Well, I'd
So-
say let's take another swing at it and find out if these are, which are rentals, which are not.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
come back to the board.
Can we just maybe make a motion that we authorize Tammy to, I mean, if they are rental properties and these are landlords, that we go after the landlord for the bill, and if they were purchased?
Sounds like a motion to me.
Yeah.
I'll support that.
Okay. So I make a motion that we go after debt collection for those that were rentals.
Okay.
And if it transferred ownership from one owner to a new owner, that we write that debt off like we have in the past.
Can you clarify your motion? You don't want to do debt collector, you just want to transfer the balance to their account?
Great.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we're not going to pay for a debt collector.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean it
Okay.
that way, sorry. I didn't mean like, yeah.
I'll still
And I'll
support
say-
that motion.
Okay.
I think
We'll send our police department over there to knock on the door. Just kidding.
I think though, before we pursue that too far, might be wise to check with our attorney, because the policy that was in place prior put the burden on the renters.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, like Tammy said, 2019 when we changed that policy,
That's right.
making it so that the landlord or the building
Right.
owner is responsible for those utility bills. I don't know that we can legally go back and change a policy we had in effect before and make it effective now.
So I can amend, I can add to my motion, which this will be fun to clarify later, but that it was within time constraints of adopting that ordinance in 2019.
Yep.
Okay.
Support that the third time.
Okay. All right, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Westbarth for a big, long thing that we'll have to sort out later. Just kidding. Roll call, please.
Who supported that?
Steve did.
Okay. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
3 times he supported it. How did you not get that?
I didn't catch it at the end.
Okay.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Westerberg?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
I just have one question. Hey, Josh, just on the prior motion, the personal property, who supported that motion? I missed that.
I have that personal property was
Palmer?
Mr. Sutton.
Josh?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the art subcommittee purchase request. Oh, my line is going the wrong way, sorry. There's information in the packet from Mr. Dickerson. Are you gonna go over that, or we all read it?
I was just going to reiterate that there is a request in your packet for the purchase of 2 benches at $3,900 apiece.
Okay.
And I think it
Find
was
that in the packet.
heavily discussed. It's on page 151.
Yeah, I was just pulling it up from the, okay. And we had several comments during public comment as well. I guess, was kind of confused by the information in the packet in regard to several things. It talks about owls versus eagles. but then the invoice itself actually identifies carved benches with bears. So I'm not sure how a carved bench with bears works into the flight concept, but but none of the bear stuff was discussed in the email from Todd.
If I could ask Ms. Hopcroft she is
Right,
one
on
of
the
the main
subcommittee?
ladies in the art.
Okay, and
art
there's a couple
subcommittee.
other things, again, I'm just gonna start off by my concerns. We have that the subcommittee has not determined a short or long-term location for the sculptures, as they're seeking input from the board and the public on how these assets could best serve the community. I guess my thought is we should have a place in mind before we purchase something. And if we're looking at a wood carving, those are going to be out in the elements for 365 days of the year. I know I have one in my basement that cracks and expands and does different things inside in a climate-controlled setting. So I just I think that wood carvings are wonderful, but I'm not sure if this amount of money is the best way to go. And then I guess, was thinking that we would identify, in my mind, you would identify what you want. So you say you want to commission somebody to do something, and you put that out there to local artists to actually come back to you and present, this is a rough rendering of what we can do, and this would be the cost. Not go purchase them from somebody, which I believe we learned tonight that it's purchasing it from a third party who's just selling somebody else's work. So those are all concerns to me that were brought up this evening. I mean, I want to be respectful to the art committee, and you guys have, everybody is donating a ton of their time and everything on there. And yes, we have a budget line item that we approve, but it's a blank number. We don't even know what some of the items are until they come back. So I kind of feel like we're setting ourselves up here for some problems where you guys are working diligently on something, and then you come back and maybe we as a board, kind of like the decals for the storefronts and stuff, we shot it down, I mean, I just feel like we're setting ourselves up here for some not good relationships between our committees and the board. So those are just my ramblings, sorry, but that's where I'm at, kind of.
I can speak to part of your questions and maybe not all of them, but in terms of the location, we did identify the location of Piety Hill for the benches. We like that location, but we also felt that the board may wish to input and the community may wish to input, but that might be our recommendation. And what we like for the owl is in front of the Township Hall. We like that, but we didn't want to presume that we should make that decision because it is an important community statement. So we did want to offer that to the board, but we like the location of the Township Hall. But we didn't want to be too proprietary about that. We wanted the board to have input and perhaps the community as well. So that's why we presented it in that way. The owl is, we liked the artist who did the eagle, the eagle descending, but we would like to have an owl, obviously, because we're the Oscoda Owls. So we looked at a number of pieces, and we liked that artist, and we thought if that artist could do an owl, that's what we would like to propose. And the request is to commission that because it's not done yet, but we don't want an eagle, we want an owl. That's what we recommend as a committee. And perhaps Mr. Wilkinson can speak better than I can to the durability of a wooden bench being outdoors. I don't have that knowledge, and we were trying to, we want freestanding sculpture that's representative of the area and appealing to the community and engages the community, and that's why we selected benches. But maybe it isn't, I can't speak to the durability, and maybe Mr. Wilkinson would do that.
Was there a discussion of maintenance for these wooden structures outside in the elements at your meeting?
No, we did not discuss that.
I guess just a question, because it was raised by Mr. Wilkinson at the beginning of the meeting. I don't think, Vicki, you were here yet.
No, I wasn't here.
Okay. it doesn't sound like any of the carvers or artists that come to Paul Bunyan Festival was consulted at all for a possibility of a quote?
Well, Mr. Wilkinson was consulted, but we were looking for something that we could photograph and bring to the meeting, and he didn't have anything on hand, as I understand. Todd spoke with you. Okay, well, that was my understanding. So I'll let Mr. Wilkinson speak to durability.
You're going to get natural cracking as the wood dries out. The sooner that you start to put a finish on it, it has to dry for some time. The bench that I finished for the drawing, the one that was the winner for the raffle, took 3 coats of finish, 24 hours in between each coat. That should pretty much stabilize that carving for a period of 3 to 4 years without any additional, but they should have some maintenance, you know, like cleaned or, you know, a mild power wash.
Perhaps even some kind of concrete underneath it so that the water drains away from the base?
Well, the best thing is to have it raised off of concrete so that there is some air circulation under the piece. So a couple slats of wood, you know. Or the other issue is, you know, do you want to secure that bench at some point so somebody doesn't come along and pick it up, you know?
It would be gone.
I've refurbished a couple items in town, and people have you know, a chain and a hook that they can lash that to.
Right.
So any other questions or any?
If you put you said that the 3 coats would last approximately 3 years. If they went through and power washed those benches once every 2 years and reapplied a new coat, a new clear coat to it, would that extend the longevity?
And I used a product called Cabot's Australian Timber Oil, which is a very high quality sealant. It's even better than Helmsman, and it was recommended by Alonzo Montoya, who was the carver of the bench that the chamber purchased. So, and over time, I've worked very closely with these carvers, so that's why, you know, our position is that if we can give them work, you know, the 4 basic chainsaw carvers have been to all 7, or all 6 out of 7 of the Paul Bunyan Festival activities.
Was there still the, wasn't there a Sunrise Side Carvers Association? I mean, when you used to have the shows at the community center and we did like smaller carvings and stuff?
Right.
You know, yeah.
And I worked with you when you
Right,
were
when we
in
had
that
those
capacity.
community-
We
yes.
used to have that wood carving show
Right.
at the community center.
Right.
And I was the event coordinator and organizer of that for 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, we've lost our wood carving club in town just because there's no young people coming into.
Yeah, sadly, it's a, you know, I hate to say a
That's a
dying
big issue.
thing, but, right. I'm a little, like, I guess maybe you can answer, Vicki. In some of the other community outreach things, we've had contests. We had a contest for photography. We had a contest for, you know, the whole tape flight thing, and people submitted work. It was juried and it was whatever. Why the different, why not that same type of approach for soliciting the talent of our community? So you again identify maybe in theory what we're wanting, you know, the size and everything, and then you have people submit renderings and cost proposals and maybe give us some examples of current work. And maybe, I mean, Greg, you can say better than I mean, I would assume there's different talent levels, and you're going to be able to tell by the talent level of their current work if it's something that you think that you're going to want to hire somebody else to do.
So my experience has been when Rose Fulton was the director of the Chamber of Commerce, she enlisted my help to reinstitute the chainsaw carving competition at Paul Bunyan, because at that point 7 years ago. There had been no Paul Bunyan Festival for several years. At one time, this was the largest competition in the state of Michigan, and it was out on the base. But that's been 20 years ago.
Right.
So I was presented with a list of 3 pages of numbers and names and addresses, and I came up with 6 people that wanted to commit. We've had several people in the community that do chainsaw carving, but they just don't seem to want to participate. So I'm real big on supporting these 4 carvers, and we already have the potential of 6 or 8 wood carvers for next year's festival. And you can, I can contact them. I talked to one of them this morning. And see if, give them first choice to make a drawing and present something.
Right.
We've already had some discussion of an owl at the chamber, possibly enlisting this Alonzo Montoya to do an owl that he can deliver to us next September. But, they work year round, so it's possible to get him to do that. Because we're also interested in fundraising aspects and raffling off items that these chainsaw carvers do, as we did the bench, purchase the bench. That's a $2,500 to $3,000 bench that we got for a considerable amount less, and we're able to make between $8,000 and $1,000 profit by raffling that bench off. That benefited the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
When I read through this, the first question I had to myself was, how much is left of the $40,000 that we budgeted? I'm assuming there's enough left to cover this cost.
Yes.
The other thing is that normally, any project we do an RFP for, or like was mentioned, we held for the artwork, we held a competition with our local artists. And I'm wondering if we couldn't do that with this, the same thing, and whichever one that the subcommittee chose, chose the benches and the owl, that the other wood carvers would be able to sell those to the chamber to use as a fundraising project. So in other words, if we ask a half a dozen different artists to come in and participate in a project to make these sculptures and benches, that they wouldn't spend their time and money, and only one of them would be selected. We would select one for our purposes, and then the others, what they created, would go to the chamber for use there, if that would.
And we already do that. We have 2 events at the Paul Bunyan Festival that are quick carves. So the carvers are given a 2-hour time slot to carve whatever they want. And then we make those available for auction as a fundraiser for the chamber. Half of the money goes to the carver, half of the money goes to the chamber. So we are already involved in doing that.
So what I'm suggesting is we have these carvers build these projects, and one of them, our art committee would choose the one that we want, and there would be we would have to have the artist put a price on it for us, so we would be able to adjust the price, know what the price is, not necessarily take the cheapest one, but the one that the art committee would select. And then the products that the other art carvers produce would still be able to be, they would recover some of their time and money from doing that.
I'm sure that we can make an arrangement.
So I would like to see us do something like that, where we would.
Yeah, I guess I again, mean no disrespect whatsoever to the art committee, because I'm extremely appreciative of everything they've done to date, and I bought a few pieces of artwork myself from the different shows. But I feel that the approach taken here doesn't make sense, really, both fiscally and in support of the community that we are trying to embrace. So,
May I comment on the previous discussion? I'd like to agree with everyone.
Okay.
For 2023, we do want to do what Mr. Wilkinson is talking about. We want to work with the Paul Bunyan Festival because it is a big outlay for the carvers to make, for them to make a sculpture on spec. I don't think that's exactly how they like to work. So we thought to get in on the Paul Bunyan Festival, and as Mr. Palmer was saying, make arrangements to buy a sculpture at the Paul Bunyan Festival, and that will already have gone through a competitive process. For this year, for 2022, it is our goal to provide, consistent with our purpose, to provide artwork to the community, and one of our goals is to have interactive and freestanding sculpture. And so the bench fits that method. I understand that it wasn't an RFP and it wasn't a contest. We can't do a contest for each item. It's a big administrative undertaking. We do appreciate that process, and if the board directs, of course, we'll do it for each one. But by purchasing items that match the program goals, missions, township, community spirit, so to say, we feel that that's consistent with our purpose, and then undertaking to have contests for photography, for paintings, and for as much as we can. But it's hard to administer a contest for the wood carving. We'd like to just piggyback onto the Paul Bunyan Festival because it's already ongoing, it's a well-oiled machine, and then bring the art, a piece out from that. So,
yeah.
I got two questions.
Yeah, I know, I'm monopolizing.
And just maybe in conclusion.
Vicki, I appreciate it. Sorry, I don't.
No, I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. I'm having heartburn here because, I understand you got off-the-shelf items and then you got one that's going to be commissioned anyway. But personally, we have people here coming here every year to support our community with these types of arts, and I would like them at least consulted in the opportunity to supply these. That's just my perspective from the board, from my position on the board.
Does maybe the police officers, Greg, maybe you can answer this question for me, but does Piety Hill have cameras? Okay, so my question to Greg then is, even though you put a coating on and it's supposed to last for 3 years, does that prevent vandalism?
No.
Probably depends on the type. If they damage the wood itself, obviously you can't repair that very well.
Right.
Well, I mean,
But
that's
if
what,
they
yeah.
spray paint it, you'd probably just sand off the outer layer of the, and then recover it with the.
That's why, that's why at the beach park, we went to resin products, or, like a Trex deck, whatever, for benches and so on, because they are more resistant to carving.
Right.
Again,
Numerous coatings that you can put on.
Yeah, right, but maybe.
There's epoxy coatings you
Yep.
can put on, but then you're talking,
More steps
more
and,
expense.
yes, exactly, and
and
I,
then a little
yeah.
more difficult process.
Yep.
Because some of that has to be mixed or hardener put in it, and, different aspects. of
Don't
that.
get me wrong, I love the carving, the benches, I think they're fabulous, but I think that in anywhere, even if it's a beach park, it's gonna get vandalized. People are gonna carve into it, do whatever. I could see the statues and stuff and having them like by Township Hall or at another business or in the pocket park or things like that, that may be a little bit more visible, that type of thing, but yeah, I can't see spending the money on a bench like that that's just gonna get destroyed.
The carvings where we could actually secure, similar to like the statue at the bronze, statue that we have at the Pocket Park that Rotary has in honor of Mary Ann Bartels. Obviously, but a wood sculpture in specific locations that we work together. So
That's my.
Might not be too bad to put them in
Thank you so much for
Township
the
Hall.
valuable input. I'll take it back to the committee, and we will weave it in. This is our first year, so
Yeah.
we're still finding our way as to how to best interface with the township. So
Right.
thank you very much.
I guess, at this time, I'm not comfortable approving the proposal as presented. And I think that we need to have some further discussion with Todd and, and the art committee. And again, can't stress enough, I don't mean this disrespectfully at all to the art committee and the time you've put in. But I do think based on some of the information we've been provided, we need to look at our local, our local sculptures and incorporate that all in and see what's the best match for the community.
Good, yes,
So,
thank you very much. We can
Yeah,
work with
thank
that.
you.
And personally, I've been a wood carver for over 30 years.
Right.
So, I have a lot of experience, and I was the owner of a now defunct business due to COVID. I have had an art gallery and a carving studio that's south of town, just a little south of the Camp Inn Lodge. There's a big 7-foot bear in front of my place. So I have a lot of experience in that regard. So there's numerous things, numerous avenues we can pursue.
Sounds good.
And all of your suggestions are, good and pertinent. And, we just need to put our heads together. And
Right, come up with the best mix. Thank you very much
Thank you
for
so much.
coming tonight. Thank
Appreciate
you.
your extra comments.
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to, so I want to deny, postpone, what would be the, what do you guys want to do here?
I think it's
Send it
just send
back
it
to the
back to the
committee.
committee with
Okay.
our comments, basically.
Okay, all right. So make a motion that we send back this request to the committee, and we'll discuss it further.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion by Richards, support by Mr. Westerbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcesterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, moving on to the social media use request. This memo was drafted from Josh, so I'm assuming you have a brief narrative to add as it's 9:30.
Yes, just
Okay.
bringing this back. Obviously, just with some of the things we're hearing, auto dialer, getting notifications out. A lot of the community members bring that to me on a daily basis, just that they like it. And you'll notice in that memo, it's to bring or have our Facebook page and have that managed without comment, but to get the meeting notices, any of our subcommittees, other groups that meet, boil water notices.
Who's going to manage it?
Superintendent.
Oh, another thing for the superintendent to do. Weren't we just looking for job duties for another person? Perhaps that could be incorporated. Where does it stop? Do we need Twitter? You got to have Instagram. Got to have them.
No,
You
if
should
you'd
probably
like.
open up a MySpace account too.
I thought it was going to be controlled by the resource officer in your memo.
For the police department Facebook,
Oh,
because they
okay.
had one
Oh,
before
their
for
own,
lost
okay. Well, I
wallets,
thought you'd be good
dogs.
because it's community service.
Well, Jeremy, we all know how you feel
Yep,
about
and
social
I guess
media. Yep.
my only issue at this point is whether or not the attorney can approve the end-user licensing agreement for our township. And if the attorney can look over the end-user licensing agreement with Facebook and say, yes, the township can say yes to this, then I will let it go.
It's as I've said to a couple of folks who've reached out to me on Messenger, in fact, asking me about this exact point. We were engaged in social media for years, and we specifically and intentionally ended it because we couldn't control it, not because of us, the township, or the staff, or the superintendent, or anybody else, but because the end-user license agreement specifically is not in our favor as a government entity. I've had a lot of people arguing with me about that, saying that that's not the point, but it is the point. We are not a private business. We have to be aware of the fact that if there is the opportunity to have a dialogue, that in its own way becomes something which we might have to have FOIA from. We don't have control over whether or not something that we post is kept. When is it deleted? If there was the ability to comment, does the platform itself delete a person's comment if it's deemed inappropriate by the platform, not by us? We don't have that control. And every one of us here who has the experience that we all claim to have with social media have seen social media platforms sanction individuals without the administrator's input. It's not all up to the administrator. It is the platform itself. Sometimes it's a word that's used. Sometimes it's the way something's interpreted. and it suddenly gets blocked. Well, that is freedom of speech, people. You cannot block that, and that is why this is not good for government agencies. And when people talk about these other big township cities, municipalities who are now getting involved in this, it's not new. They've probably been doing it for a while. I think it's, I have to say I'm sorry. I think that they either probably haven't looked into the problems that we have, but we went to an attorney, which maybe we should do again with our new attorney and say, hey, what about now? But I really don't think it's all going to be a cakewalk here. It's a problem. We don't have the staff to manage it, unless, of course, we want to create that position that we've talked so much about, trying to find something for that person to do, to manage the social media, I guess. It's like, on top of the other things that these other little odds and end jobs. But it is a point that I think we have to work together on it, because no one here is trying to be adverse to anybody here who's proposing, trying to communicate with the community. That's not the problem. The problem's been trying to find the right medium, and the website is truly the only medium that we can control. And while I know people have said that it isn't as good as it should be, or as easy to use or whatever, and that I have to say, well, then let's turn that around. Instead of trying to throw it out before we've just only had it for a year now, I guess it's been, let's fix it. Because it's a fixed fee, it doesn't require a team of people. We have a vendor who's supposed to be coming back and reviewing the content on a fairly regular basis. I thought it was either monthly or quarterly, to make sure that it was operating optimally. So we have things in place. Let's use what we have. That's my stance on this topic.
Okay. Well, I hate Facebook. I mean, I like it for sending stuff about lost dogs. We have a missing person right now that I've shared the heck out of, trying to find their lost pets, pictures of my dogs, whatever. But I do not make comments. Sometimes I have blood trickling down my lip because I want to make comment at many of the things that are misspoken in our community. Like, why doesn't the township why don't we do something with the Kmart building? Well, last time I checked, they wanted $2 million for it. So pretty sure that's not in our budget. That would be up to private business, not government. But again, there's my 2 cents. But if I guess, Jeremy, you just said, and Tim both said that if our attorney can review the Facebook, I think what we want to shoot for is just Facebook, not, I think you were joking about MySpace.
It doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore.
All right.
And it seems that Facebook is going the same way. Their stock is dropping, so we're going to get this approved.
I'm with you.
And then they're going to dump it, and none of the kids use it anyway.
If we
None of
could,
the younger generation use it anyway. They're
right,
all moved
I
on.
know, there's Instagram and whatever else. But if we could start one place, if we could start with Facebook, if our attorney reviews the policy, if we could shut off comments so that nobody can comment, nobody can whatever, we're just putting information out there by the township, for the township.
But when you join Facebook, it asks you, are you joining as an individual or a business? So then that goes right back to, if the attorney can guarantee us
need to look into that
we as a board can allow our government entity to enter into a contract with Facebook, because that's what we're doing, and the board approves it, I will never speak of it again.
Do I have that in writing? Somebody write that down. All right, so there's a motion.
Please
Do you
add no
make
comments.
Township for informational purposes. Jamie, that was easy.
I would make a motion that this issue be sent to the attorney for extensive review.
Or just
and report back to the township board on whether or not the attorney believes that we can, as a government entity, enter into a contract with Facebook based on their generic contract and user licensing agreement.
Okay, I will support that, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you.
There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, sorry to take your glory. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards, for blah, 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 for the attorney, we'll get that on the recording.
Yeah.
For the attorney to review, to see if we as a government agency can enter into a contract with Facebook. And just specifically Facebook is all we are looking at right now, with no comment feature allowed.
I will amend my motion to include the no comment feature.
Okay. I will support that then. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, moving on to our agenda addition, which was PKL, right?
Yes.
Okay, PKL Homes Contract Amendment.
Okay, PKL Homes is requesting a contract amendment to the original purchase agreement executed on November 17th, 2022 for extenuating circumstances relating to a life-threatening health issue. PKL Homes is requesting the requirement for the earnest money deposit be extended to December 16th.
So this Friday.
What was the original day?
10 days ago. So it'd be, what's today? In the second.
When was
Sorry.
that correspondence? I mean, obviously, we knew that the date was 10 days ago, that it was supposed to be by, when did we receive the correspondence to extend past the date that's already?
I believe it was the 22nd.
November?
I talked to the attorney extensively over the last week, and I have a specific motion by her. She would also like the board to know that it's just extending for 4 days.
Repeat that last thing, I didn't hear all that.
It's just extending the contract for, well, it would be an extension for the next 4 days
That's
till
right,
the
yeah,
16th.
that's the 6th, the Friday, yeah.
I guess the question is, did we receive the request to extend it before the original due date or after?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's good. So this is
All
the
right,
first
and what is
opportunity to
our
act.
attorney proposing that we make a motion of?
So, her motion would be to approve an amendment to the agreement to purchase and develop property between the Township and PKL Homes Incorporated to extend the date by which the purchaser must tender the earnest money deposit of $2,000 for an additional 4 days. That date, December 16th.
Okay.
So moved.
No, she can't make the motion.
She can't make the motion.
Brian.
You do it.
I'll read it. I'll read it. If the attorney sent it, I'll read it.
Seriously. Okay. So you'll have to start approving the amendment, just like that.
Jeremy.
I move that the Township Board of Oscoda approve an amendment to the agreement to purchase and develop property between the Township and PKL Enterprises, Inc. to extend the date by which the purchaser must tender the earnest money deposit of $2,000 for an additional 4 days or upon December 16th, 2022.
Support. Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings, to proceed with the amendment. Any further discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
No. Motion carried. All right, moving on to the second public comment on the agenda. The second public comment is not, does not have to be an item that we discussed this evening, was on the agenda, just it has to be limited to 4 minutes, okay? You do not need to fill out a comment card, you just need to state your name when you go to the podium. So with that, I'm gonna start on the far left where there's nobody sitting. Nobody wants, yeah, nobody there. Now I'm in the middle. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand and then I'll call from you there. Galen, you wanna come up, please? And give Jamie a second here to turn on the timer like I told her to.
I'm not going to go. I'm just delightless of the hour. I just wanted to thank the Township of Oscoda and the Osable Township for the great support for the parade and all the businesses, and a special thank you to the Lake Theater for the first time since I've been here getting a Christmas movie for the whole family. It was wonderful. PKL Development supported that movie. And I wanted to thank all our sponsors who actually helped the chamber break even on our expenses, and I wanted to thank them: Calida Air, Cooper Standard, the Irish Pub, the Rotary Club of Oscoda, Sunrise Realty, Real Estate One, Lighthouse Realty, Goyette Mechanical, Little Caesars, Gilbert's Drugstore, and then Jerry Funk, who is a veteran, a VFW member, and I just really appreciate all the help from this township, and Ann helped give out necklaces too, so thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work on that. Okay, I think, did you have your hand up? Kelly, come on up.
Give me a hot second before you do the timer.
I got you,
I
girl.
have to read it on my phone.
Okay.
Even with these cheaters, I don't think I'm going to be able to.
I'll wait till you
It's too
actually
dark.
start your
All right. Okay, hit it.
Okay, you're on.
Kelly Brown, Oscoda. I previously sent all of you this email today, and I don't take pleasure in having to have this conversation with you, but I feel it's necessary. So I am writing to you in advance of tonight's meeting. I'm at a loss of where to start with this information, so I'm just going to give you the basics and some supporting details. I was a member of the Downtown Redevelopment Subcommittee under the EIC since last year, October 2021. I've been an active member, and as of recently was one of only 2 volunteers that handled the majority of the last project, which was the survey I mentioned earlier. We do have other contributing members, but this one was a subcommittee of a subcommittee, as the director relayed when asked where everyone else was. So schedules were not consistent since members that work full-time, like myself and 2 others. So we have to establish some better leadership, as well as on the 14th of November, the EIC director had emailed all of us that we would postpone our meeting until after Thanksgiving, until after the end of Thanksgiving, just to accommodate some members that work and were out of town. So on Tuesday, December 6th, last week, I, as well as the other members of the Downtown Redevelopment Committee, received the email that I sent you letting us know that our subcommittee had been decommissioned by the EIC approval vote at the latest meeting on December 1st. No prior call or meeting for our subcommittee to hear this. And it actually was the opposite, where we had talked about setting standards of a certain meeting date and time every month and whether or not we were going to meet in person. And Todd had indicated that he would follow up on his November 14th email to us. I found all of this very suspect since I met with the superintendent on November 7th regarding some performance issues by the EIC director that occurred on our subcommittee most recent project. And at that time of meeting with the superintendent, she had advised me that I unfortunately was not the only person that had met formally with her about the EIC director's performance, and this was a business owner. And they also happened to be on this subcommittee. So the superintendent at the November 14th meeting had advised me that she was going to talk to the EIC director on the 15th, the next day, and she would be handling this and getting back with me. I did follow up on the 17th. She mentioned she was gathering some additional information. She was in the middle of budgets, but she had spoken to the EIC director. And if I could, I followed up with another email on the 21st to ask if there was some estimate of timing. Now that was 3 weeks ago and I still haven't gotten a response. And I originally approached this topic 5 weeks ago. So I question whether or not the EIC committee was the catalyst to asking for the decommissioned subcommittee, as I have an email that was sent to me that is from the EIC director to the Art and Placemaking subcommittee, which is the other EIC subcommittee that I am under the EIC structure with. So it talked about, you know, the delay. I just want to ask, why would the decommissioning of a subcommittee be discussed with another subcommittee? The idea was directly presented to the EIC from the EIC director, he advised other subcommittees he was going to put this decommission of the downtown redevelopment subcommittee on the next meeting agenda. But a word was never said to us for over 2 weeks on this other committee. We never got any notice. Why would the EIC director, in the same email to the Arts Subcommittee, call out the township for all the personnel changes in his 3 years and 16-day tenure as a reason for not making progress on the vacant building? So it talked about 3 directors of zoning, 4 attorneys.
Kelly, I'm sorry, but time is up. And you did, I guess I will just, you sent an email to the board, as you stated in the beginning of the meeting.
Correct.
We do have that email, which you are reading to us.
Correct.
I responded that I received the email, and that if you wanted to discuss it this evening, you needed to do so at the second public comment, which you are.
Correct.
I am not going to be making comment this evening, and as I told you, we will look into it and investigate it further with Ms. Klein. So,
Good.
Thank you.
for bringing it to our attention. I apologize of your frustration,
Yeah.
and we will look into it.
Could I ask, when did you send that email?
4:44.
It was really late. I tried to contact everybody.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with you guys, if you can spare me 15 seconds. I didn't want to do this.
Right.
But I was so bothered by the fact that I try and get involved and make my hometown better as a volunteer. I don't own a business.
Okay, and I don't want to cut you
So
off,
I
but
appreciate your
yeah,
time, but
thank
this
you.
is really a difficult topic to even have to address.
Right,
Kelly, I
understand
would
that.
like to follow up because I did respond to your email when I got it late today, but I also had a chance to follow up with Ms. Klein, and I've got a little bit of conflicting information, so I wouldn't mind having a separate discussion, just so I can straighten out.
Absolutely. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else in the middle section for a public comment? No? Okay, on the far right-hand side. Bob? Or Robert, sorry. I think I met you as Bob to begin with, and that's what I do. So, sorry.
He's been called worse.
Yeah. I've been called worse than Ann, so yeah, I'm with him.
Robert Tazier, Bob, Oscoda Township. I would like to mention, first of all, about the budget. Probably the biggest job for our superintendent throughout the year is putting together that budget. And I got to say, this year I only attended one of the work sessions. I was able not to go to the other ones, which I'm glad I didn't, because that job is so important to put that budget together. And I think Tammy needs a lot of praise for doing that, put together such a good budget, because I did go through that budget. And I think it was a good job because I have worked with everybody on this board at one time or another. We've all had conversations and talks, and I got to tell you, the biggest thing that I have to praise Tammy for is herding cats for those work sessions and getting this done. So kudos to Tammy for getting that budget done. The second thing I wanted to talk to about is, the second thing I would like to talk about is thanks to Mr. Spencer and Mr. Cummings for informing me about the social media policies with Facebook and heading us in the right direction to get that legal opinion. I had no idea that that was all involved. All I know is about, you go on, click Facebook, and people talk about all kinds of crazy stuff on there, okay? So I thought as an informative way to inform our community, and it is part of our communication plan about how to do that, and our master plan and how to keep the community informed on what we are doing in our township. And if I think right now, after this talk, if the attorney, which it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but we don't know. But the one point that they did bring up, the website.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm retired. I'm an older guy, gray hair. I've got the whiskers for it. That website is hard for me to get around on, to get information out of. Yeah, I can go into the Municode. I can do all those things, but just get the packet for tonight's meeting. How many times you have to go and click? I can't remember. Go to meetings of the agenda. Oh, not there. You got to go to the Board of Trustees meeting. Now you got to go here. You got to go there.
Nah, that was it.
Sorry, that is not. Why can't we just go click, board packet, done? You know, we have to be able to do something there. Now, putting money towards somebody to go in there and do that kind of stuff for us, I would say that's money very well spent.
I would agree.
So I think going down that line, maybe we could put a little bit of thought into that website. So just my opinion. Thank you, everybody, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry
Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Anybody else in that last? Nope. Okay. All right, that wraps up our public comment section on the agenda. Thank you for everybody that spoke at both public comments. We are now on to board comments. And do anybody have a preference which side I start on?
Start down there.
Okay. I'll start over here. Any board comments?
I'm fine, thank you. Over to you.
Okay.
I know lots of people want Facebook, and we'll see if it's, and the only reason that I'm even considering it is because so many of you people, our citizens, have come out to this board meeting to stand at that podium and say, hey, we want it back. And so I will stand behind, let's look at it. So thank you all for coming out, because that does make the difference. And for those of you that sit at home, we need you here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you next year.
Mr. Sutton, anything?
I would just like to say thank you for everybody who comes out and interacts, and everybody who supported tonight. Thank you to my two opponents on this issue for sharing your knowledge as to why, and everybody understanding, and I look forward to getting that review and seeing what we can and can't do with that. And I would also just like to let everybody know that in tonight's meeting packet was included the Iosco County profile for October 2022. That is our recycling plan that we have worked on. Started with me and Scott Moore, and Jamie Carruthers came in from the county. We're actually looking at full recycling coming in 2024. The county has approved to dispense the engineering funds for that plan and where everything's going to be, how it's going to work. So I'll be working with them, as well as Scott Moore, Ms. Klein, and Jamie. We all kind of pulled in and wanted to figure out how to do recycling. It started as something just what could we do here, and now it appears 2024 we will be full recycling for 90% of the products that people like to recycle in our area, and hope that'll keep stuff out of our local woods and everywhere else. So that's been a huge project, and if anybody gets time to review that, it is in there. It's quite lengthy, but it's there for everybody to consume. That's a year and a half worth of work in there for you guys. So.
Thank you.
One more thing.
No. Just kidding.
Please. Ed, just real quick, the community theater that we are sitting in right now is going to have their Christmas show. They do an annual Christmas show every year. It's Friday and Saturday this weekend, so if you can come down. They put a lot of work and effort into it, and I'm sure they'd love to see you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, over on this side.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I just checked my township email, and I do not have an email from you, Kelly, so if you want to resend that to me, I would appreciate it. I'm not a big social media person, so what Mr. Cummings and Mr. Spencer the information they were giving out, I think was very valuable to understand our position with social media. When I read Josh's proposal, not having comments, I thought it sounded reasonable to me to be able for the township to put information out there for emergencies and things that need to be transmitted to the community. And so with that, I think if our attorney is in agreement, then I think limiting, not having comments, if we can do that, I think that would be good. Otherwise, I would just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous and safe New Year, and go blue.
And maize.
I'm getting my revenge in basketball. So. They just went number one today.
Hey, the Bulldogs just made something in football, so I'm excited about that. That's my alma.
No, thank you, Tammy Klein. I thought you did a tremendous job this year in pulling everything together and all the fires you fight every day. So I appreciate your dedication to the township. Number two, Merry Christmas. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a safe holiday season. I know we have a month break as a board, and actually I'm looking forward to it. So I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Jamie?
Yep, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all my fellow board members and to all the residents in Oscoda Township and everybody else as well. Just a reminder, and Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Township Hall, the hours for the holiday were closed December 23rd and 26th.
Yes.
And then the 30th and the 2nd. So the Friday and Mondays is our scheduled holiday days off, just so you don't make plans to come in and try to pay your taxes before the end of the year and we're not
Oh,
there.
you had to remind us.
Sorry. But other than that, again, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Great. I think we had some really good dialogue this evening as a board. I honestly feel it was one of our more productive meetings and respectful to each other, and I'm glad we wrapped up the year this way. So I, for one, thought it was good. Tammy, you did an amazing job with the budget, and there's a lot of daily things that you have to deal with in order to put that together. So good job in that. We have talked about superintendent evaluation. I dropped the ball in regard to getting that out to everybody, but with all due respect, some of you dropped the ball in getting it back to me. Sorry, but we do have it all back now, and I will be giving all of those evaluations to Ms. Klein. So I was waiting for the last one to come in, so I'll be giving all those. So those are all back. Again, I thank the subcommittees that we have working for us with the EIC and Planning Commission and Border Review and anything else. I mean, a lot of people are paid a very, very small stipend. Some are paid nothing at all. So I appreciate all that. And again, I know I said it 3 times, but I meant no disrespect in turning down the request. I just think that we need to tweak it a little bit more and make it better for the community. So I apologize for that if it came across in a negative way, any way, shape, or form. And with that, I would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. It's a tough time for a lot of people. People have lost loved ones, but we always have something to celebrate at the same time. Yep. So I hope you all find peace and comfort in those that surround you. And we live in an amazing community, and we all pull together, I think, when things are needed. You know, we have a missing person right now that people are out searching for. We have had a family that lost their home recently in a fire. Thank goodness all of them were safe, including their pet. But there has been fundraising efforts already for that. I guess I did make a kind of a quick comment about Kmart and so on. When it comes to Facebook, it just amazes me what people think that government can and cannot do, and what we do wrong, I guess. We had a recent closing of a homeless shelter. Oscoda Township had nothing to do with closing that homeless shelter. I am just going to say that. Oscoda Township had nothing to do with closing that homeless shelter. That was done completely by that shelter itself. I'm not going to speak to why they did it or why they did not or stay open, but we had nothing to do with that. When it comes to Kmart, I've seen many comments, other communities make it into a hospital, make it into that. You know what? Do it. Go buy it at $2 million per, you know, I mean, we, the township, don't have the resources to do that. That's what private investment, again, in my opinion, is for. That's right. So it's our job to make sure that our infrastructure and things are in place for developers to come here and to be able to do it themselves, not for us to do that. So with that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hopefully 2023 is COVID-free, and we kick some serious butt in this community. So that's it.
And you are the national champion.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that. Motion to adjourn at 10:02.
Thank you, Ann.
Just a quick update on that gentleman that's missing. He has been seen. What? There is a report that he's been seen twice. Wow. So they're still trying to find his vehicle. I just got that word, unfortunately, on Facebook. But and that was posted by the original family member.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Thank you. Yeah, he lives out by Matt's parents.
Really?
Yeah, on Biznett. Yeah. Yep.
Yikes.
We're going to plug in fire trails out there and everything.
Oh, come on.
Put your phone back in your section, man.
I like your